Hashem Na'aseh v'Natzliach, shiur Torah. Baruch Hashem, we are back here in Miami. We have another Mishnah we're going to start tonight, because last night's Mishnah we completed. But this Mishnah is sort of like a continuation. Sort of a continuation, or it is a continuation actually, of the last Mishnah. It's we're still getting our Chidushim from Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi, the giant among giants that was best friends with Eliyahu Navi, that gave us a lot of the insights of what goes on beyond this world, and is one of very few people in history, I believe one of 10 people in history, that went to Gan Eden alive. The Mishnah continues what we spoke about last night in regards to the value of Torah, to the value of learning, to the value of having a real friend, value of having a rabbi. Ultimately, making sure that at the end of it all, if you're ever going to give anyone honor, it's only for the Torah they possess, and not for any other reason. And the reason why, the Chachamim explain that a person that receives honor for his wealth or beauty, they're not being honored for what they are. They're being honored for what they have. So, for example, if you give a person like Donald Trump kavod, you're not giving Donald Trump kavod because he's such a wonderful person, he's such a wise person. No, you're giving him kavod because of what he has. He has a position of power, he has a wealth, and so on. On the other hand, when a Chacham gets kavod, when Hashem gives the blessing to a Chacham to get kavod, that Chacham is getting kavod not for what he has, but rather for who he is, what he's earned. Now, what does it mean to earn Torah? The pasuk in Proverbs say that the wise shall inherit honor. So people that are Chachamim, ultimately part of their reward is that they are going to get kavod in this world. But you see many times that the Tzadikim, at some point in their life, especially the giant ones, were nistarim. The people didn't know who they were. But eventually they were recognized when Hashem wanted them to be recognized. Many of the tzaddikim, Hashem forced them to become famous. They themselves did not want to do it. There's many stories. We'll hear a little bit of stories about the Parshah, who for many years no one even knew who he was, to such an extent that they used to insult him on a regular basis, until they realized he's the biggest rabbi in the world, and until this day, you cannot go through a page of Gemara without going through his commentary. But sometimes there were certain tzaddikim that Hashem identified them early on. For example, Rav Ovadia alav Shalom, when he was still just a teenager, Rav Ezra Atiyah from Yeshivat Porat Yosef, he one time walked into the yeshiva, his own yeshiva, and he saw all the Talmidim, all the young students, and he looked for Rav Ovadia, who was just Ovadia at the time, and he asked the other Talmidim, when he comes in, make sure to stand up for him. All the Talmidim said, Kvod Harav, for who? For Rav Ovadia. Ovadia, really. They call him Ovadia because he's their buddy. He's a teenager. They hang out after school. He goes, no. When he comes in, you have to stand for him. He's Talmid Chacham. You have to stand for him when he stands up. He's a teenager, a youngster. You have to stand for him. He's a big Talmid Chacham. There's a story in one of the Sfarim that talks about the Chachmei Sfarad, or the Sephardic Chachamim, I better said, says that one time the Baba Sali, Alav Shalom, met with the Rav Ovadia, and he invited him. He said, please, have a Sauda with me, have a meal with me, to think Hashem will bring the Mashiach closer. Rav Ovadia says, I'm sorry, Kvod Rav, but I have a shiur. I have to go give a shiur, and we both know that Limud Torah keneged kulam. The teaching Torah is more important than anything else, even bringing the Mashiach. When he left, the Baba Sali said to his shamash, he said, he is from a different generation. He's not from this world. He doesn't belong in this generation. Doesn't belong with us. Somebody else. This is a giant, is identifying another giant. But well before his years, well before he became the Rav Ovadia that everybody knows. Now what does it take really to be such a Chacham? Now some are going to tell you, yeah, you have to be born that way. You know, Rav Ovadia, for example, had a extraordinary memory. There are many stories about his extraordinary memory that just profound memory, the abilities that he had. One journalist tried to make fun of him one time and said that in his older years he became forgetful. So Rav Ovadia, that typically didn't pay attention to journalists, took attention to this story and invited this journalist to his house and told him, where did you come up with this conclusion of yours that you wrote a whole article about, that my memory is gone, that I forget things? Did somebody tell you something, or do you have any evidence that I forgot something? Did I say one thing in one day and something else another day? He said, no, but with all due respect for the Rav, I mean, you're older now. It's natural for older people to lose their memory. You're only in your 80s. It's not like you're 50, 60. You're in your 80s already. It's very natural. Don't take offense to it. I just said that people shouldn't really rely on your opinion anymore because you're old. He says, well, our Torah tells us otherwise. The Torah Masechet Pesachim says that an Am Haaretz, an ignorant, as he grows older, he becomes a bigger fool, becomes a bigger child. But a Talmid Chacham, as he gets older, he becomes sharper. So Rav Ovadia told this journalist, this chutzpan journalist, and he told him, listen, why don't you, let's test this theory of yours out. Why don't you pick any book that you want in my Sifriya, which had no less than 40,000 books, some say 60,000 books. Pick any book, tell me the title, open the book on any page, just tell me the first word, and let's see what happens. As he climbs the shelves on a ladder, he reaches to the back to get some book that had a lot of dust on it, so even if it was a book that he used to remember, I mean, if he has dust on it, he hasn't read it in years. So most likely there's no chance, no remote chance whatsoever of remembering anything from this book. Better yet, even the title. But still, he did. He read the title, he told him the author, and he told him the page number. And as soon as he started with the first word, Rav Ovadia alav shalom continued the rest of the page, word for word, as if he's reading the book and he's listening. But in reality, he's the one that's reading the book and he's speaking. He couldn't believe it. He tried with another book, and it happened again and again and again and again. And obviously he had to change his article, rewrite an article, saying that not only was I wrong, which I think probably is the first time in his life he admitted that he's wrong about anything, this journalist, but the memory that Rav Ovadia had was not human. He says, I don't think there's any human on earth that ever had such a memory. So a person could easily say, okay, so he became a Chacham because he had good memory. But plenty of people have memory. There are actually some people in the world that have a disease where they have a brain dysfunction that they don't forget anything. They actually had a 60 Minutes on this years ago that I watched, back when TV was part of my life, Hashem Achem. And they had a program that said that they interviewed these people that had this brain dysfunction, where they literally remembered every single event of their life as if it's happening right now. Not like remember like we remember. Like you may remember some, sporadic memories from 5 years ago or 10 years ago or even 30 years ago. I mean, I remember certain things from when I was 3 years old. But I don't remember like it was yesterday. I remember it was many years ago, many years ago, but still, I remember like it happened. I remember I was there. I looked different. I was a little smaller, better shape. I remember it happened. That's not what they have. They remember these people, they remember it as if they're experiencing it right now. And each and every one of them tells you it's torture. Why? Because most of life is difficulty. There's little spots of pleasure from time to time, if that much for a secular person, where he goes on vacation and he has fun for a week, or at least 2 days out of the week vacation, 2 days fun, 3 days fight, then a week of recovery, maybe he gets a raise, another 20 minutes of fun, another hour going out of fun, and then he has a good meal, another 15 minutes of fun, and he's with his wife, and he's with his kids, and so on and so forth. So you have little bursts of fun of 5 minutes here and 10 minutes there, and he watches the game, and the game itself is 3 hours, but not the whole game is not fun. Maybe there's like a play here and a play there and a play here and a play there, meaning sporadic moments of 20, 30, 40 seconds that are fun within the 3 hours. So maybe the entire 3 hours you may enjoy in reality 3, 4, 5 minutes at most. So you have sporadic parts of fun in everything that you do. You're not going to enjoy the 5th, 6th, or 7th bite of the steak as much as you do the first. First one, when you're really hungry, you haven't eaten all day, you've been waiting for this delicious steak. So the first bite's like, wow, like you've never eaten before. Second bite, a little less. Third bite, it's okay. Fourth, it's edible. Fifth, you're already waiting to get full. And even by the 6th or 7th, you're enjoying it. It's tasty, but it's not the first bite. Sometimes the last bite is better than the first. Just simply a psychological aspect of it. But nonetheless, it's not necessarily as much fun. It's not the whole thing is fun. Life, not the whole thing is fun. So when a person remembers everything, that means that most of their memory is not fun. If they remember every event in their life, they remember the fun stuff, but it's little in comparison to the not fun stuff. If the entire game was 3 hours and you only enjoyed 3 minutes, that means you're talking about 177 minutes of not fun. Boredom, just nonsense, whatever it was. In comparison, it's a terrible memory. You remember a relationship you had that didn't end up working out. You were with her or you were with him for 2 years. And in the 2 years, you had 2, 3, 4 weeks of fun. So that means that you have yourself over 100 weeks. 100 weeks of not fun. Because especially the fact that it didn't work out. So now even the things that were fun now have turned to not fun. Why? It's not fun anymore that I'm not with him. It's not fun anymore that I'm not with her. Why? Because now you regret some of the things. And that's the secular world where literally it's the vast majority of their life is just regrets. There's no purpose to the living. And many of them can't wait to die. So when a person says, I remember everything, it's not exactly a good thing. So we see here that just because somebody remembers everything doesn't necessarily mean that it turns into a good quality. As a matter of fact, the sages explain to us that one of the chasadim, one of the kindnesses that Hashem gave to the world is to make us forget. Because since He knew that most of our life is going to be difficulty, if we remembered all of it, it would be very, very easy to be miserable all the time. So here we see one example, one proof, you can call it, that memory by itself is not going to necessarily make you successful in Torah or anything for that matter. There are plenty of geniuses that are losers. On the other hand, hard work, as we've learned in the previous Mishnah, is a prerequisite. And we'll learn here that in this Mishnah, what does it mean by hard work? Hashem in the previous Mishnah told us in the Pasuk from Proverbs, I have given you a good teachings, do not forsake my Torah. Ki lekach tov natati lachem torati al ta'azovu. I give you something extremely valuable. Don't let it go. Why? Because if you let it go, that means you still don't understand its value. The Gemara in Masechet Brachot says something extraordinary. It says a person that forgot to say Kriyat Shema. Person that forgot to say Kriyat Shema. It happens. It happens. Person doesn't pay attention. He goes to sleep without saying Kriyat Shema. Person has to pray 3 times a day. A man does have to pray 3 times a day. Women at least once. And sometimes it happens where he worked late. He didn't get a chance to go to pray Arvit with the minyan. So he figured, you know what, I'll pray at home. When I get home, I'll pray at home. And the Gemara says that you can pray Arvit until the morning. Shachrit, you have a certain amount of hours in the morning hours. If you don't do Shachrit a certain amount of hours in the morning hours, then all you do is you do Kriyat Shema. Let's say, for example, if somebody woke up late, like practically everyone in this generation of high schoolers, then unless their Ima and Abba wake them up in the morning to go to school, they don't wake up until 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So a person wakes up at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. They can't pray Shachrit anymore. What do? You still have a chovah. What's the chovah? You have a chovah to do Kriyat Shema. But this, when you lay tefillin, you have to do lay tefillin, do Kriyat Shema. But now it's not the mitzvah of Shachrit, now it's mitzvah of just Kriyat Shema, which is Limud Torah. Which means that here we see that if you're not going to read Kriyat Shema and do the Amidah of Shachrit at a specific time, and each zip code has a time of when it begins and when it ends, you go to myzmanim.com, which is a very good website, an app that you can get that tells you when you can start, when's the earliest time, according to the Gra, according to Avadia, that you can start, you can say Kriyat Shema and put on tefillin, the earliest time, and the latest time. After that, you have approximately about an hour break, and then you're able to start doing Mincha. And Mincha, you can do from that moment, from the afternoon, all the way until it's dark outside. Until it's dark outside. Once the sun goes down, no more Mincha. No more Mincha. Which shows us again that Mincha also has a set time frame, a window of opportunity to say this holy prayer. There's a window of opportunity of when you should say it. If you do it too early, you may have made a big sin in the Torah, bracha levatala. Do it too late, similar. So you have to do it within this window of opportunity. But Arvit has the longest window. Why? It's from the time that it's dark all the way until the sun comes up, approximately. So if you ever miss minyan for Arvit, doesn't mean that you can't pray. You go home or wherever you can. Sometimes there's in different places, especially in Yerushalayim and other places that have a very serious Jewish keilah. They have some of these shtiblachs that have literally a minyan every 10 minutes throughout the whole day. Every 10 minutes is a new minyan. I remember when I first saw this, the first time I ever saw this in my life, I saw it in Yerushalayim. I went with my Rav. I'm like, oh, when's the prayer starts? He goes, no, this place that we're going to, it's every 10 minutes a new minyan throughout the entire day. Every 10 minutes, a new minyan for Shachrit. Every 10 minutes, a new minyan for Mincha. Every 10 minutes, a new minyan for Arvit, meaning during those windows of opportunity. It was fascinating to me. I said, this is the greatest Beit Knesset in the world. I don't have to ever worry about coming in at a specific time. I can just know, as long as I'm with this big window of time, I'm getting here, maximum I have to wait 10 minutes for them to start something new. Wonderful. Makes you kind of sick to your stomach that you don't live in Yerushalayim a little bit. Well, me it does. Anyway, Arvit is something that you have a very big window, because as soon as it gets dark, the Gemara in Masechet Brachot, Chachamim say, you can pray until it's morning. So, if you ever miss prayer from Minyan, and so on, you can pray on your own, say Kriyat Shema, say Amidah, everything is good. You obviously missed the opportunity of praying in a Minyan, so it's not something that you should do on a regular basis. But, nonetheless, you still are not patur from the mitzvah, you have to do it. But sometimes it happens that you forget. You are so busy working, they say, I can't go to the minyan, or I'm on traffic, I missed. So I'll just do it like the rabbi said, like the Gemara said, I'll do it when I get home. You get home, and the wife is there, it's like, hi honey, and the kids are there, and hi honey, you're happy to see them, we just sit down with them for a little bit, and you play with the kids, and then they go to sleep, and then you hang out with the wife a little bit. Before you know it, you forgot. You just simply forgot. You're so tired. You're so consumed with everything. You simply forgot to pray. It happens. What's the big deal, right? The Gemara in Masechet Brachot says, not only it's a big deal, it's like the person never said Kriyat Shema in his entire life. Hold on a second. Entire life? Relax a little bit. I missed one time. I did morning, afternoon, night, every day for 20 years. You tell me I missed once? It's like I never did it in my life? Chachamim say yes. Why? Because if you're at such a level that you could simply even get to a point of forgetting to say Kriyat Shema, even once, that means you do not value Torah. That means that all of the Torah that you've learned until now, it's no b'shamayim. It's not from Shamayim. You don't have the right perspective for the value of Torah. Because if you knew that it's worth $1 trillion to the infinite power, surely you would not forget. If you knew it meant infinity of good, surely you wouldn't forget. If you knew it meant delicious all the time, of course you're not going to forget. If you knew it's more important than your job, your wife, your kids, your husband, you, yourself, this world, everything else, surely you wouldn't forget. Why? Because it's Torah. Once you realize it's Torah, and you realize the right perspective of it, you're not going to forget. Which means that if you forgot, you have no idea what the Torah is. And if you don't have no idea what Torah is, everything you've done until now is not really Torah. Meaning that the Torah has a very different perspective of itself than we have of it. The Torah knows the truth about itself, of how valuable it is. And that's why it doesn't simply rest on anyone. That's why it doesn't just simply go to anyone. Not anyone that opens a Gemara can understand it. Not anyone that opens a book can remember it, or even know how to say it, how to learn it, or anything like that. Many people read books, but there are very few Talmidei Chachamim. Rav Shach, alav shalom, he said that in his 100 years, he never saw a single person that knows how to learn without Yirat Shamayim. He never saw a single person that's a real Talmid Chacham if he didn't have Yirat Shamayim. So Talmidim told him, Kvod Harav, there's plenty of people that have written books, the Talmidei Chachamim, they know a lot of information, but unfortunately, they go against the Torah a lot. They bring Christians to their shul. They do a honorary event for the Christians and for the Muslims, like Dwek Shem Rashaim Yirkav. They tell people that you can do a lot of things against the Torah, but they wrote books. These people. Rav Shach says, no. I said Talmidei Chachamim. These people are not Talmidei Chachamim. They just do shtuyot in their head and pretend to be Talmidei Chachamim. A real person that's a Talmid Chacham that knows how to learn has to have Yirat Shamayim. It's impossible not to. Why? It's a rule in the Torah. It's a rule in the Torah. Without having Yirat Shamayim, the Torah will not allow itself to rest on anyone. And be literally real inside a person that doesn't value it. Now, how do we get this Torah? B'ezrat Hashem, this Mishnah will help us a little bit get to closer to the Emet. The Mishnah is Vav Dalit, chapter 6, Mishnah number 4, and it says the following. Kach היא דרכה של תורה, פת במלח תאכל, ומים במשורה תשתה, ועל הארץ תישן, וחיי צער תחיה, ובתורה אתה עמל, אם אתה עושה כן, אשריך וטוב לך, אשריך בעולם הזה, וטוב לך לעולם הבא. We see Mishnah is a little shorter than the couple that preceded it, but nonetheless, I'm hoping we could complete it today, but most likely it may require more than one shiur. Just because there's so much information in it, you could talk about it for 10 years and still not finish. Mishnah says, this is the way of the Torah. Meaning this is all the character traits of what's required to inherit Torah. Eat bread with salt, drink water with small measure, sleep on the ground, live a life of deprivation, but toil in the Torah. If you do this, you are praiseworthy, and it is well with you. As Psalm 128:2 says, you are praiseworthy in this world, and it is well with you in the world to come. Initially, when a person hears this is the way of Torah, you get really excited. Wow, I'm going to get to know how to get to the Torah, how to become a Rav Ovadia, how to become Rashi, how to become Rambam, how to become giant, right? And then it starts telling you, oh, just eat bread and salt, drink water in small measures, just a little sip at a time, sleep on the floor, live a poverty life, be like a little homeless person. All of a sudden, everybody's desire for Torah just dropped 99.9%. It's like, oh, I could just watch shiur though. I can just enjoy Torah. Who wants to sleep on the floor? Who wants to eat bread? So first and foremost, we should know that it's not necessarily meant literally. This is not a promotion for living a life of a destitute person or some person that's a homeless. Rashi explains that it's not trying to promote that type of life, but rather it's trying to explain to us the significant value of restricting our indulgences, restricting our desires. First and foremost, telling us that if you want to get to become a Talmid Chacham, it is not possible without working on your midot. No midot, no Torah. Simple. Rule number 1. The Gaon Mivina said, if a person does not fix his midot, what's his purpose? What's the point of his life? Why is he alive? Why do you need to be alive if you're not going to fix yourself? What, to eat? Well, eventually it's going to go out anyway. To what? To drink? Same. To get married? That's going to end at some point, either through the replacement or through death. To live life, what? To go swimming? What are you going to do? You're a fish? To go running, play basketball? What are you, a monkey? Like, what are you going to do? You jump around, the monkey does, he doesn't get paid $30 million, but he's happier than any basketball player. Like, what's the difference between us and the animals? You can't tell me we came to this world to be on a good diet. Why? The cow has a better diet, but it's still fat. Eats salad all day, it still weighs a ton. What's the point of life? So one of the primary distinguishers between us and animals is that we have the ability to restrict our habits, restrict our desires, our indulgences, and the animals don't. And the reason why is because the animals simply function based on reflex. We function based on desire, meaning our brain power. So you can never say, no, I couldn't help myself. Yes, you could, you just chose not to. You could help yourself, but you just chose not to. I just had to steal it. I just had to lie. I just had to do this, and I had to do that. And I accidentally fell, and I arrived at this person's house that I cannot be in. No, it wasn't an accident. It was on purpose. You're just pretending it's an accident, because now you have to deal with the consequences. And you don't like the consequences. And the reason why is because a person that does not restrict their desires, their indulgences, is simply putting themselves in a lower level than the animal. Not the same level. Let's not mistake it, because that would be an insult to the animals. We're not allowed to insult animals. Be'emet, we're not allowed to insult animals. Where did we learn this from? We learned this from Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu was given the task of saving Am Yisrael from Mitzrayim, first by bringing the plagues to Egypt. But Moshe Rabbeinu did not actually put the plagues himself, or implement the plagues himself, but rather it was through Aaron. Hashem Yitbarach gave Aaron that job. And the reason why is because Moshe Rabbeinu, when he was told that the water was going to turn into blood, he says, I can't do this, Hashem. Why? I owe the water akarat tov. I owe the water gratitude, because the water didn't drown me when I was a baby. And my mom put me in a basket. The water could have easily just drowned me, killed me. I wouldn't be here today. So for me to go turn this beautiful, tasty water into stinky blood, it's not a good thing to do. Yeah, but it's water. What are you going to send you an email? I can't believe you did this. I'm going to complain against you. What's the water going to do? Doesn't matter what the water's going to do. You have to have an understanding that everything deserves its gratitude, everything deserves its respect, whether it's a chai, domem, doesn't make a difference. It's a living, if it's a flower, if it's a rock. Even the sand, when Hashem says make a lice, turn the whole ground into lice, Moshe Rabbeinu says, no, I can't do it. Why I can't do it? Because the ground, it hid the Egyptian. After he killed the Egyptian, when he hit the Jew, I killed the Egyptian. And I buried the Egyptian, so no one catches me. The ground, if the ground didn't want to, it could have spit him back out. Meaning the angel of the ground, everything has an angel. He's not literally talking about the sand that you see. He's talking about the angel that's in control of it. He goes, I owe the angel akarat tov. I owe him gratitude. Why? He allowed me to use him and hide the body of the Egyptian. So why? I'm going to turn him into a bunch of lice? No, that's not a good gratitude. It's not gratitude. A person needs to know that to be a tzaddik, it's not about what you do in front of people like most people think today. Most people are very, very focused about being a tzaddik because of the way they wear things, what they wear. At home, they walk around with no shirt on, maybe underwear. But outside, they put this suit and a hat and a beard and this, and they walk around with their chest sticking out, and they pretend like they just came out of the White House meeting. At home, the guy looks like he just came out of the shower all the time. Kavod Rabotai is nice, but if you chase it, it runs away from you. To be a tzaddik, it has nothing to do with kavod. To be a tzaddik, it has to do with running away from kavod. To be a tzaddik means that you're going to do everything right, regardless of whether there are people next to you or not.
Now, not everybody that achieves this overnight, immediately as soon as you did something right, you don't just become a tzaddik. Like a lot of people send me messages, God bless them, I know their intentions, but many times people are overly righteous. Where Shlomo HaMelech says, Al tiyeh tzaddik arbe. Don't be overly righteous. Why? It's not a good sign. It's not really a good sign. Because if you're talking to somebody that knows you, whether it be your rabbi or your friend or your wife or your husband, and all of a sudden you used to walk around every day, you walked around with a tank top and underwear in the house, and all of a sudden you're wearing a suit all the time. Your wife naturally is going to ask you, where are you going? Where are you going? You tell, no, this is the way I dress. What do you mean, where am I going? I'm just like this now. It's like, honey, I know you for 20 years. The only time you ever wore a suit was to a wedding and to the funeral. Other than that, you don't wear a suit. Where are you going, buddy? No, I just want to wear a suit. I want to wear a suit. No, cough it up. Oh, yeah, I got a meeting. Oh, that's came the story. Don't pretend. Stop pretending. People sometimes, they send these emails and they start telling me, listen, I'm really worried. I can't believe it. I'm scared. I'm petrified. I'm this. Why? What happened? I forgot to do a blessing 4 days ago. You really had to tell me that? You had to write a 1.5-page email to tell me you forgot a blessing 4 days ago? Like, what could I do for you anyway? What, could I bring you back to the past and maybe you could do a blessing? Stop pretending. Don't pretend to be so righteous that, if you were so scared, you wouldn't have made the sin in the first place. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. People try to do these minimal things and pretend they're big. And the reason why Shlomo HaMelech says, Al tiyeh tzaddik arbe, don't be overly righteous, meaning, not don't be righteous, overly righteous, meaning righteous in the wrong places. A pretender, a faker. Why? Because that's a sign that we learned from this week's parashah. What parashah? We learned from this parashah that Yaakov Avinu says, Atzileni na miyad achi miyad Esav. Save me from my brother, save me from Esav. We see here that Esav and Achi are the same. Esav and my brother are the same. Esav on one hand grew up in the same house with the same parents as Yaakov, but yet he's a murderer, thief, gambler, loser, and Yaakov is tzaddik kadosh. And Yaakov is saying, save me, he's my brother, but save me, he's Esav too. Why? Because sometimes he acts like he's just like me. But in the end, he's still Esav. Sometimes the voice sounds like me, Akol Kol Yaakov, but in the end, the actions are like Esav. What is it like? People ask, how was Esav able to fool his father Yitzchak for so many years, thinking that he was a tzaddik? Because Esav knew a lot of Torah, but he knew that if he told his father about Shabbat, Taharat Mishpacha, kosher, the big things, it's no chidush. So what he would go to his father, he would go to Yitzchak, he'd say, Abba, I have to make sure I'm right here. I was just double checking the halacha. Do I need to give maaser on salt also? I just got some salt. Do I need to give maaser, 10% of the salt also before I put some salt on my rice? Do I have to put 10% on the side also? Just so I don't steal from God? Yitzchak, b'tmimuto, says, oh, what a tzaddik son I have. He doesn't realize that we don't give maaser from salt. We eat salt. We don't give maaser, but he's so righteous that he even wants to give maaser from salt. The reality is, this is the definition of tzaddik arbe. This is what Shlomo HaMelech is saying. Well, righteous. He was a murderer. He couldn't wait until his father is going to die because he wanted to kill his brother Yaakov. But he pretended to do these big mitzvot. Pretender. The reality is, Rabotai, it's a very, very dangerous attitude. When a person acts like that, it's not a good sign. It's not a good sign. If if you want to know if you're on the way to being a tzaddik, then you have to do it when you're hiding, when no one sees. I heard a wonderful story, just happened this week. Someone said that maybe a year ago or so, they had they got a new computer, and they needed to get a program, some type of program for their computer. And somebody had the program, and said, listen, you could use my program. I said, okay, fine. After a few months, it stopped working. So you asked the person, hey, listen, the program stopped working. What happened? He goes, oh, no, don't worry. I'll send you a new password. Why do I need a new password? I already put the password. One conversation led to another. He found out this program is what we call in street language bootleg, stolen, a.k.a. stolen. Where one guy steals a program and he just gives the password to everybody else. They do this with a lot of programs, Microsoft programs and others, because no one wants to cough up the money. Because each one of these programs is a lot of money, $500, $600, $1,000, depends. So a person steals it and he shares the password with a bunch of people. And don't worry, Bill Gates is not coming to your door and saying, listen, sir, you stole Microsoft Word, pay it up, pay it up. No one's coming to your house. So people feel free, like it's like a hefker. One person stole, let everybody else steal. And you even in halacha, there's actually even a leniency where if you are not the one that originally stole, somebody else stole, and it's from the goyim, technically you can find a leniency to use it. Is it the right thing to do though? Well, let's see from this story of what I heard. He says, as soon as he found out that this is stolen, he says, you know what, do me a favor, don't give it to me. Why not? What are you, tzaddik arbeh? He goes, no, I don't feel good about it. Poor guy, he says, I don't feel good about, just, somebody stole it, it's stolen. Like, yeah, Bill Gates is not going to get poorer by $600 because of me. Microsoft is not going to declare bankruptcy because of me, but still, it's just, look kasher. Yeah, but no one's going to know. What? No one's going to know. It's not like you're publicizing on Instagram and Facebook, look at me, I stole it. No one knows. No one's ever going to know. No one says, oh, listen, oh yeah, this file, yeah, it's a good resume, but we can tell it's a stolen program. No one's going to know. No one's going to know they used a stolen Word file or a stolen whatever file. No one's going to know. Still, he said, not for me. If I need the program, I'll just buy it. So his friend told him, listen, I understand you're not exactly such a rich person. The program's $600. Okay, so when I get the money, I'll buy it. I don't have the $600 now, but when I have it, I'll buy the program. And here and they would look for it. He said, found one day that you can get something for a discount. But then he saw something that you can apply for some type of grant from this company. That if you win the grant, you can get the program for nothing, for $30 or something, like some minimal amount of money, like they're less than lunch. Why not? Let's apply. What does it cost me? Nothing. It cost me $20, $30 to apply and put my name down, put my information down. What's the worst that could happen? I lose? Okay, so I get my money back. And this is what he did. 2 months later, he gets the response. Not only did he get the program, but he got 50 of them. You got 50 licenses to this program, meaning $30,000 worth of software for free. So if he has 50 people, 50 employees, 50 colleagues, or 50, he can tell them, listen, I can sell it for $150, $200. You make money out of it. Or if it's his employees, give it to them for free. Point being is that you just got a matana from Shamayim of $30,000. For what? For not being willing to steal something that no one is ever going to tell. No one's ever going to be able to tell if you stole it. This, Rabotai, is an indication that someone is trying to be righteous. May not be a big tzaddik in the world, and he may steal tomorrow. Who knows? But what we do know from here, this is already matana from Shamayim. This is already Hashem showing the person, I like you. I like it. It's nice. Here's a little prize. Here's a little prize. I like what you're doing. Keep going. Sometimes Hashem gives you a little bit of treats here and there to give you momentum to keep going. You were not willing to steal something that was worth a few $100. Here you go. I'll give you 30,000. It's a pretty good indication of which side Hashem wanted. If he would have stolen, he would have never even applied. He would have never looked. He would have never gotten. And if he would have ever had the need for 50 licenses, he would have had to pay $30,000 for it. Most importantly, if he arrived at Shamayim, or when he arrives at Shamayim, they're going to ask him, by the way, when you were stealing that Microsoft program and no one else was there, did you also think that Hashem wasn't there either? Well, news. He was watching you. And he was saying, I can't believe my son, my beautiful son, that I invested so much time into. They used to sit next to me on Kisei HaKavod. I brought him all the way from Olam HaEmet. I took him to this world. I invested a piece of me into him. I can't believe he's a thief. What a shame that the King of Kings' son is a thief. Imagine, the king has everything, but his son stole $50. What kind of, forget about the $50 or punishment, what kind of embarrassment is this to arrive at Olam HaEmet a thief? You're the king's son that stole? You're no longer just the king's son. It just goes with you. Wait, you're the king's son that stole. Because the king has other sons, but they're not always like you. They're not thieves. You're the one that stole, though. Imagine the embarrassment. For how long? Eternity. Once a thief, that's it, finish it. Thief for eternity. There's a ketem, there's a stain on the person's neshama. That anyone in the Olam HaEmet that sees him, oh yeah, he's the son that's a thief. Yeah, how much did you steal? $500. At least steal 100 million, do something with it. That's what you have the stain for $500? What a shame. So you see, Rabotai Yekarim, that to be a tzaddik, you don't need to do things that show off to people. You need to do things that are the opposite. The opposite when no one's looking. Kach I adarka shel Torah. This is the way of the Torah. The problem is that when people start learning some of the things that we're going to see here, we start seeing that the most important aspect of Torah is sacrifice, which in the generation of convenience that we live in is something that people are simply not willing to do. A person one time met with Rav Wasserman. They were old classmates in yeshiva, and he left yeshiva. He became a very, very successful lawyer, and Rav Wasserman, alav hashalom, became a rosh yeshiva. Now the successful lawyer was baffled at how poor Rav Wasserman was. And he says, Elchanan, you're much smarter than me. You've always been much smarter than me. Had you gotten into law just like me, you'd be much more successful than I. Don't you think maybe... Rav Wasserman did not answer. A Chacham doesn't just shoot from the cuff. Sometimes it's necessary, sometimes it's a mistake. Chacham knows when. Certain times you have to attack aggressively. There are certain things you cannot be lenient about, you cannot be patient about, you have to attack aggressively. But there are certain things you have to wait for the right moment. Because anything you do now, it's not going to give the message. So Rav Wasserman just continued their discussion about other things. But then later on, as they had to part ways, they both went to the train station. And they were both waiting for a train. And he saw that there's two trains at the station. And one of them, the businessman, the lawyer, the very wealthy lawyer, was going to take. It just, from Siyata Dishmaya, happened to be that the train he was taking to the west was like a run-down, old train. Really run-down, old, and didn't really look so good. The other train that was going east was a brand new train. Newest technology, beautiful, heated seats, wonderful things. And he saw he's going in the direction of the ugly train that's 50 years old, back from the cowboy days. He's like, why are you taking this train? Take the nicer one. Take the nicer one. Look how much nicer it is. He goes, no, Elchanan, it's going east. I need to go west. He goes, yeah, but look how much nicer it is. Look how nice this train is. Why would you go in this terrible train? He goes, Elchanan, what's the matter with you? You used to be so smart. What happened to you? What's the point of going into this beautiful train if it's going to take me to the wrong destination? He says to him, Rav Wasserman says to him, your ears should listen to your foolish mouth. You asked me before, why didn't I become a lawyer like you and a big businessman like you? Because I have brain power and this power and that power. But yet you yourself understand that if it's the wrong destination, what's the point? Even though the ride here looks pretty, it looks nice and it has nice seats and it has a lot of money and it's comfortable and convenient, in the end it's temporary and the destination is not the one I want to be in. I want to be in a different destination. And anyone that calculates the value of the destination more valuable than the way they get there is always going to pick the train that's ugly. Why? Because the destination is much more important than how you get there. A person needs to know that in order to arrive where you want to be, it's not always going to be a pretty ride. It's not always going to be comfortable. It's not always going to be convenient. In fact, many times, most of the time, from experience, it's usually not. But Rav Bunumi Pshischa said that the poverty the Torah scholars deal with should be compared to anyone that does business. If you ever want to have a great analogy, you go to the Chachamim and they give you an analogy to understand anything. He says, a person that wants to sell things, manufacture things, he's doing it because he wants to make money. He's not doing it because he's so charitable to society. Even if he says in a commercial that his cause is so great and so needed, in reality, if everyone told him, listen, you're going to lose money on every single product you sell, he's never going to sell a single product. If you're going to lose $1 on every sale, selling more is not going to help you. You're just going to lose more money. So what is a smart businessman do? He tries to lower the cost. What's the number one cost that businesses have? It's the overhead cost of the actual product itself. So many companies over the years would go overseas. We'll go to Asia, we'll go to India, we'll go to Singapore, we'll go to different countries where there's low labor. Low cost labor. Why is there low cost labor? Because these people are living in practically a third world country, and they get paid $1 a day, $1 a week, $1 a month in some cases. So the company can give you a product for 10 cents, but if you bought it from America where the minimum wage is $15, it will be $10. Meaning it's not like a small gap, like $10 in America, $9 in India. No, it literally can be that much of a difference where it's $10 in America and it's 50 cents somewhere else in the world. Many of those places are no longer as low cost as they used to be, but nonetheless still cheaper than America, simply because there's no minimum wage laws in these other countries like there is in America. These minimum wage laws, even though people think that they are good, in reality it's actually not very good. But that's a conversation for a different time. Abuna Pshischa says, anytime a person finds one of these countries, especially in the old days before Alibaba and these types of websites where you could pretty much order anything you want from the end of the world through your computer without even ever talking to anybody. In the old days, you actually had to fly to China to go travel among China, go to different places in China, different factories in China, find out who can do what, for how much, and you had to spend a month or two negotiating, also putting some money under the table to the mayors, because if the mayor doesn't get any money, you're not getting anything. And just so you know, there are over 3 million mayors in China. So get used to meeting people. And also bring some cash with you if you're going there, because every one of them wants a few dollars. No mayor, no business. That's the way it works. What do you guys think? It's like ordering McDonald's. Give me this, and $5 later I get a hamburger. It doesn't work like that in the real world. In the real world, everybody wants to get paid. For that burger to arrive in America for nothing, a lot of people had to die. Anyway, Rabotai Karim, the person that wanted to find cheap products had to go travel to these third world countries. But it's not just low cost labor, it's also third world country that goes along with it, meaning that they themselves are not developed. So you have to go into the jungle sometimes and risk your life. You have to deal with pollution. You have to deal with filth in the streets. You have to deal with all the garbage, filth of the world that us Americans, if you will, that don't even want anyone to sneeze next to us, are just not accustomed to. When you go to different places in India, you'll see people making bread in the streets, using the water from the streets to make bread. Different places in Morocco. If an average American goes to eat in Morocco, immediately they're getting sick. Immediately. You may even die from it. Why? Your immune system is not able to handle it. Their immune system is used to it. Anyone that goes and eats in a foreign country, 9 out of 10 times gets sick. Why? Different immune system. They're used to different things. Point being is, Rabotai, you go to a third world country, in many places they may not even have working electricity, working water, working stuff that you're used to. Or you have to go to the bathroom like it used to be 80 years ago, 90 years ago in Israel. There used to be a bathroom in the middle of the city, 3-4 miles out. You had to go. There was a few bathroom holes in the wall, holes in the ground, and someone would have to come clean it up every day. Not like here you have flush 15 times, nothing, everything cleans up like you were never there. So, meaning that if you want to go do business in India, in China, in Singapore, Indonesia, all these places, yes, they have cities that have big buildings that you see on TV and pictures and have fancy cars and billionaires even, but that's not the majority. That's a city. The majority is still days of Antiochus. But that's how they could get the labor at $1 an hour. So Abuna Mipshischa says, a person that's going to go do business is going to realize it's not such a fun trip. Why? He has to deal with filth, terrible stomach, awful food, smell. Everybody smells to you because they have a different smell. Like one person that's from that country to another, they don't smell each other. But you come over there, you smell them. They smell disgusting to you. They smell you, you smell disgusting to them. Everybody doesn't realize there's differences. People, especially Americans, think that they're the only ones that exist in the world. So the person is saying, listen, I'm not used to this, the bugs and the smells. No, this is not for me. He's going to leave the trip. He's going to go back home to America because he wants to be on his cushy couch. He says that business is never going to make it. Why? He's too worried about the journey and not about the destination. Only a fool thinks like that. A real businessman doesn't care that there's germs and there's bugs and there's bad stomach and there's headaches and there's smells and there's no bathroom and there's no this. Why? He's worried about the destination. And if he has to suck it up and suffer for a month of terrible smell just so he can get to the destination of getting his product for 90% cheaper, a real businessman is going to be able to do that. Why? He's worried about the destination. A real Jew is going to be able to do that. When he realizes that this life is just a journey. 20, 50, 100 years, however long each one of us is predetermined to actually live, the reality is, Rabotai, this is just a journey. It's not real life. Gemara says life begins at death. Not life. Real life begins at death. So a person that knows that his entire life is just to invest into real life, he's not so focused about the suffering that he has to endure here. And this is what this Mishnah is trying to tell us first and foremost. The reality is that even though you may end up, or a person may end up, being so poor that they could only afford to eat bread with salt. They could only afford to have some water. And not even that much, they could only drink a little sip at a time. They could only sleep on the floor because the amount of people they have in their house, not everybody can have a bed. So they have to sleep on the ground. And the reality is, from the minute they wake up to the minute they go to sleep, it's one suffering after another. Regardless of all of that, the Shulchan Aruch writes in Yoreh De'ah, Talmud Torah, Siman 246, first halacha. Kol ish Yisrael chayav Talmud Torah ben ani ben ashir, ben shalem begufo, ben baal isurim, ben bachur ben zaken gadol. אפילו בעל עסקים או אישה וילדים חייב לימוד תורה ביום ובלילה. The Shulchan Aruch puts a halacha saying that every single Jew is obligated to learn Torah, regardless of whether they are poor or they're rich, regardless of whether they have health, good health, or they're sick, constantly in pain, regardless of whether they have suffering in life or not, regardless of whether they're young and strong or old and fragile. Even if they're a businessman, they have many, many businesses. Even if they have a wife and kids that are driving him crazy, he's obligated to learn Torah both day and night. As it is written in the book of Joshua, chapter 1, verse 8. Ve'igita bo yomam v'layla. Hashem says to Joshua, the Gdol Ador that took control of leadership after Moshe Rabbeinu, the beginning of the book of Joshua, it says, Vayirach mot Moshe Eved Hashem. ויאמר אדוני אל יהושע בן נון, משרת משה לאמור, משה עבדי מת, ואתה קום, עבור את הירדן הזה אתה וכל העם. It happened after the death of Moshe, servant of Hashem, that Hashem said to Yoshua ben Nun, Moshe, my servant, died. Now you arise and cross the Jordan, you and the entire people, meaning he took control. So now as he took control, he says there's some rules you have to follow. What's the rules? The book of Torah in chapter 1, verse 8, he says, Lo yamu sefer haTorah mipicha v'higita bo yomam v'layla. This book of Torah shall not depart from your mouth. Rather, you should contemplate it day and night, in order that you observe it to do according to all that is written in it. For then you will make your way successful, and then you will act wisely. So here we see the mitzvah that is given to the Gdol Hador Yoshua ben Nun to deliver to Am Yisrael. You have to learn Torah day and night. Now maybe this is just a figure of speech. You know, Hashem says, learn. But if you're busy, don't worry about it. So if you fast forward to chapter 5 of the book of Joshua, there's an extraordinary event takes place. We learn that Am Yisrael had to do certain things in order to have the merit for Hashem to take them out of Egypt. Aside from putting the Korban Pesach, of taking the God of the Egyptians and cooking it, they also had to give themselves Brit Milah. Everybody had to give themselves Brit Milah. Regardless of whether they were 8 days old or 80 years old. No Brit Milah, you're not leaving Egypt. But after they left Egypt, and they were in the desert for 40 years, the book of Joshua says that most of the people did not have Brit Milah. Meaning that for 40 years, the entire generation that arrived at Eretz Yisrael, almost none of them had Brit Milah. Rashi says because it was dangerous. It was dangerous, and many of them were scared to do Brit Milah, so they didn't have to do Brit Milah until they arrived at the land. So now that they're about to enter the land, Hashem says to Yoshua ben Nun, you have to fulfill the Torah, you have to learn it day and night. And now Hashem says in chapter 5 verse 2, at that time Hashem said to Yoshua, make sharp knives for yourself and circumcise the children of Israel again. A second time. Why a second time? Because the first time there was a massive amount of circumcision was when you left Egypt. But then there was no circumcision for the last 40 years. So this is like the second massive amount of circumcision. So Yeshua made sharp knives for himself and circumcised the children of Israel. Millions of people had Brit Milah. You're talking about, Chachamim say, literally there was a mountain of Orla. A mountain of Orla. Sounds disgusting, but it was a holy event. Everybody's in pain. It's not exactly comfortable. But we just fulfilled biggest mitzvah of their life. This generation, because all the generation that was at Mount Sinai, everybody died. Meaning this entire generation, no one was at Mount Sinai. This is the new generation, because everybody else died because of the punishment, because of the meraglim, the spies. So this is their children. So they just fulfilled the biggest mitzvah of their life. So they're all happy with themselves, even though they're in pain, even though they're uncomfortable. They're happy with themselves. They just build a big mitzvah. Fast forward a few psukim. It says that it happened when Yeshua was in Yericho and he raised his eyes and he saw, and behold, a man was standing opposite him with a sword drawn in his hand. And Yeshua went toward him and said, are you with us or with our enemies? The pasuk says that Yeshua ben Nun, they just fulfilled a huge mitzvah. They're supposed to go to war, but he sees, Yeshua ben Nun sees somebody huge. But not anyone normal, doesn't look like everybody else, and on top of it, he has a sword in his hand, which is indicating that he's not here to be friends. The Mefarshim explain this is not a human being. And the Pasuk continues in verse 14. He said, meaning this man, said, no, for I am the commander of Hashem's legion. Now I have come. He is one of the head angels of Hashem. He's not a human being, or even close to one. You're talking about an angel of Hashem, has a sword in his hand, he's in front of you. Yeshua ben Nun falls before him to the ground and prostrates himself and said to him, what does my master say to his servant? What can I do? What can I do? Meaning you're a messenger of Hashem. Why are you with a sword? The commander of Hashem's legion said to Yeshua, remove your shoes from upon your foot, for the place upon which you stand is holy. Meaning this is like you're having a meeting with Hashem right now. And Yeshua did so. So Chamim say, why does he have his sword out? Because the Malach was telling Yeshua, I've come to kill you and everybody else. Why? Hashem gave you a mitzvah. He goes, yeah, we did it. We just did the Brit Milah. He goes, no. He gave you a mitzvah to learn Torah day and night. And you have not done so. Yeshua says, yes, but we just did Brit Milah. We were just going to a war. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. We learned yesterday. No. Hashem says, doesn't matter that you learned yesterday or this morning or this afternoon. Right now it's night. You must learn Torah. If not, there's no purpose to your life. Yeah, but we just did a big mitzvah. Good for you. You'll get a reward for that mitzvah. It still doesn't give you a license to steal. Meaning all the good you did, good. You'll get paid for it. Don't worry. But it doesn't mean that you can just give yourself a free ticket to do bad. And not learning Torah equals bad. So we see even with the biggest of the generation, Yeshua ben Nun, almost lost his life. The entire nation of Israel almost lost their life. For what? They missed one shiur Torah. It's not like they haven't studied in months. One shiur Torah. They learned in the morning, they didn't learn at night. That's it. They didn't come to the shiur because they were busy. With pain and agony. And they did the mitzvah. Mitzvah? Good, you did the mitzvah in the morning. Now it's night. Meaning, Rabotai Karim, there's no discounts in Shamayim. There's no such thing as discounts in Shamayim like people think. And we see here that this is one of the messages that we're trying to get from this Mishnah. What these Chachamim are trying to tell us here, that regardless of your situation, whether a person is poor or rich, whether they're eating steak and ice cream, parv ice cream, or they're eating bread that's 3 days old and feels like cardboard, makes no difference. You're obligated to learn Torah. Whether they're as healthy as one of these sports stars or as sick like I used to be, doesn't make a difference. Obligated to learn Torah. Whether they're young, like a teenager with all of his might and energy and testosterone, or old, like one of these old men that can't even take a shower by himself, doesn't make a difference. Obligated to learn Torah. How often? Day and night. You have to learn in the morning, you have to learn at night. Now, the Shulchan Aruch originally gets it from the Rambam as well. And the Rambam gives even more clarity on this. On Ilchot Talmud Torah. First and foremost, in Ilchot Talmud Torah, chapter 3, Halakha number 6, Rambam gives us a perspective of what does it mean a pasuk in the Torah? What does it mean Torah? So Halakha says, at what age is a father obligated to teach his son Torah? What age? We have a Mishnah that we read maybe a couple of months ago. It says where age 5 you should already learn Chumash and so on and so forth. But the Rambam doesn't use that. He uses something else. He says when a child begins to speak, he says words. Abba, Ima, starts to talk. His father should teach him Torah tziva lanu Moshe morasha. A father is obligated to teach his son one of the critical psukim from the Torah in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 34, verse 4. Torah tziva lanu Moshe morasha kilat Yaakov. That a person that understands what is the value of Torah, understands what is a... This is actually chapter 1. Chapter 1 in Ilchot Talmud Torah, Halacha number 6, not chapter 3. A person understands the value of Torah, understands the value of a pasuk. He understands that teaching your kid, what a lot of parents like to teach their kids, say thank you, say Abba, say Ima, that's all nice. That's all wonderful. It's not going to get into Allah Abba. It's not going to get into Allah Abba. It's nice. What are you going to teach the kid? Teach him a pasuk from the Torah. What pasuk? Torah tziva lanu Moshe morasha kilat Yaakov. Why? Torah, which Moshe commanded us, is the inheritance of Keilat Yaakov, congregation of Yaakov. Why? Because in chapter 3, Halacha number 1, he says if a person wants to inherit the crown of Torah, this pasuk has to be in their brain permanently, like engraved into their brain. Without having this in mind, that the Torah of Moshe was a commandment and it's also an inheritance, you're simply never going to get to a point of appreciating Torah. You're simply going to think that the Torah is some nice teachings that's good to have once in a while, but balanced with some secular studies also. Balanced with some politics too. Balanced with some other shtuyot that you do. The problem, Rabotai, is that the kilkul, the damage that happens, is when we teach our children that Torah is just another subject. It's just another thing that you do in life, instead of it is your life. So the Rambam explains here that first and foremost a person needs to know Torah is not another subject, it's everything. If a person treats it like it is, he'll actually inherit it. As the pasuk in Mishleh says, it's more precious than pearls. That the Torah, Shlomo Melech says, is more valuable than the most valuable commodity there is, at least in that time. Now, to give us a little bit of an understanding of how big Torah is and how it can elevate a person, the second halacha that the Rambam chooses to have in chapter 3 is he says, look at what it can do to a person. Once in a while, it happens that a person does something truly evil. Now, to steal is a terrible thing to do, but it's not always evil. Sometimes it is, but it's not always. Most of the time it's simply because a person is careless about everybody except himself. Just selfish. He wants something and he's not going to let anybody get in his way. He wants money, he doesn't care that everybody else is going to lose. So he steals. He wants an apple, so he steals it. But sometimes when a person steals, it is evil because they're literally ruining people's lives. But it's not by default evil. What is evil by default? Adultery. Adultery by default is always evil. And the reason why is because if a woman commits adultery, if she cheats on her husband and then goes back to her husband, not only did she just cheat on him with something that belongs to him, but on top of it, she's making him think that she's still his. Meaning he's still living in the fantasy that he had when he first married her. Little does he know that every single second he's in the same house as her, it's a sin from the Torah. Every second they're alive together. It's a sin from the Torah. Worse yet is if she has a child with the person she cheated. Not only she cheated on the husband, but now she's going to bring a child to the world. Why is this evil? Why did the Torah call this evil? To such an extent that the child is called a Mamzer. Mamzer like Yeshu Imach Shimo was. Jesus was a Mamzer. His mom cheated on her husband, which actually was a big rabbi, and she had Yeshu. She cheated with this guy Joseph. That's the real story, by the way. She cheated with the guy Joseph, who was a goy, and she had a child named him Yeshu. So Yeshu was actually a mamzer. That's what the Chazal tells us, explaining why he had such bad midot and so on and so forth. But nonetheless, when a woman has illicit relations with someone that's not a husband, that alone is terrible. But to have a kid from that makes it worse. Why? Because that kid has a permanent damage in his life. He can never marry a normal Jew. If he's married if he's as a result of cheating, and he's coming from the other male, the non-husband, then that child is called a mamzer for the rest of his life, and he's only allowed to marry a mamzer or a convert. That's it. He's never allowed to marry a natural-born Jew. Never. His kids, also same thing. Meaning it doesn't end. It doesn't end. Yes?
The definition of an evil wife is that? It's at that level, or where does it start?
Evil wife could be many different things. This is just one of them. Evil wife could also be one that doesn't cook food for a husband. According to the Torah, doesn't just be a husband. No. For evil wife, some of the Chachamim says that if an evil wife waits for a husband to ask for food, that already makes it terrible. Why don't you make food for him already? It's not so pashut. But this is the ultimate. We're going extreme here. Why? We want to go for the jugular. We want to go for the worst kind. A wife that doesn't respect her husband, doesn't stand up every time she sees her husband come into the house, that already is a problematic wife. A wife that doesn't listen to her husband, he tells her you should be modest, she says, you be modest. I want to wear my mini skirt. I want to wear my tight pants. That's a terrible wife. But it's not the worst. What's the worst? Wife that cheats on him and has a baby with the other guy. That's evil. That's the ultimate. That son or daughter, Shem Yachem, there's literally a spiritual tattoo on them. It's not leaving them. They can't marry a natural-born Jew. They can't be part of a lot of things. But despite this, Rambam tells us that our sages explain to us that a Torah sage, a Chacham, a Talmid Chacham, who's a Mamzer, meaning he was born out of wedlock. He's born into this awful, disgusting act. But he didn't let that bring him down. He didn't let that, oh yeah, I'm a loser, I might as well stay a loser, I'll drink and drive, I'll do drugs, No. You were born into it, doesn't mean you have to stay there. Why? If you learn Torah, he becomes Talmid Chacham, deserves precedence, meaning he's on a higher level than a Kohen Gadol that's Amar, doesn't know anything. I mean, he's a Kohen Gadol is the one that goes in Kodesh Kodashim on Yom Kippur. But if this Kohen Gadol doesn't learn Torah, the Mamzer who learns Torah is even bigger than him. Meaning, he's not just a Talmid Chacham. He can literally get to one step below the best of the best. That's how powerful the Torah can be. To take somebody from us, the tum'ah of the world, the worst of the worst, and make him something very special. Because the Torah is so valuable, it literally makes the person. It's not what he has, it's what he becomes. That's why when someone teaches you Torah, your friend gives you a chidush, your wife says, watch this lecture, watch this chidush, watch this clip, and you get something out of it, we don't say, what'd you do for me? What'd you do to me? We don't say, in Hebrew it sounds better. Lo asita, yeah, what'd you do to me? It's what you did for me. Meaning that a person that gives you Torah is a person that literally changes you as a person. Because before that Torah that you got, you were a completely different person. Now, the Rambam continues and he says that there's no mitzvah in the Torah that's equal to learning Torah. No mitzvah in the Torah that's equal to learning Torah. Rather, learning Torah is equal to all of the mitzvot because studying Torah leads to deed. Meaning, studying Torah leads to action. Therefore, studying Torah takes precedence over actual mitzvot in all cases. But there's an exception. What's an exception? Exception is, what if there is a mitzvah opportunity and you're in the middle of learning? What's the mitzvah opportunity? You see that somebody needs a ride. Somebody needs a ride to go do something. Let's say, for example, somebody needs a ride to the hospital. She's about to deliver a baby. But you're in the middle of learning. Do you stop learning or not? Technically, it's pikuach nefesh. Do you stop learning or not? Quickly to say yes. It's not easily yes. Why? Check if anybody else can do it. Can somebody else do it? If somebody else can do the mitzvah, they're obligated to do the mitzvah, not you. They're obligated to do the mitzvah. But if you're the only one that can do the mitzvah, then you are obligated to do the mitzvah. Meaning that mitzvah doesn't take precedent over learning Torah unless you're the only one that can do it. If you are the only one that can do a certain mitzvah, then you have to do the mitzvah. Then it becomes more important than learning Torah. Because the Torah is not just to learn, it's also to do. But you have to be in a position where you're the only one that can do it. Yes?
Is there a proper declaration if he has to go do the mitzvah? And he gives up?
No. I mean, let's say a person can't be a shoteh either. Like, for example, some people try, the Gemara says, some people are overly righteous, where they pretend to be learning Torah, but in reality, they end up killing people because of it. Where they see somebody drowning, and say, no, if I go save this woman that's drowning, I may touch her, and that's illicit relations. I can't touch her. So no, I'm not going to touch her. What, are you going to let her drown? Don't be overly righteous. Meaning it's obvious. Not obviously, if it's a person needs to use their brain. But the point is that if we're giving you a very simple scenario where there's a mitzvah, but you're not obligated to do it unless you're the only one that can do it. And every person needs to use their brain as far as when and how that is. There's no, hey, listen, you're obligated because we don't live in a Bet HaMikdash. Not everybody knows even the rules, or even that something is even a mitzvah. So, but the point is, a person for themselves needs to know in general. So, for example, I used many times this example between husband and wife. People think that learning Torah always takes precedent. In many cases, it does, but sometimes it doesn't. One of the Chachamim one time came to his students and his kollel, and he told them, "Listen, Rabotai, we're before Pesach, and we all have to do some mitzvot. So I have a list of 20 women that are almanot, don't have husbands." Everybody's surprised. Breaks their heart. Poor women don't have husbands. They have kids, no husband to help them. He says, yes, and these women need help in the house. They need somebody to help them clean, do some shopping. Who volunteers to be the tzaddik? To go help these almanot? Every one of the Avrachim, 20 Avrachim, all 20 of them raise their hand. All 20 of the Avrachim raise their hand. Yaakov comes, he gets a piece of paper. Shmuley comes, he gets a piece of paper. Moshe comes, he gets a piece of paper. Reuven comes, he gets a piece of paper. Everybody gets a piece of paper. Each one of them opens the piece of paper, and who is it? It's the name of their wife. He goes, go help your wives. Why? Right now, you learn Torah. Good. Now you have to go help your wives. Why? It's before Pesach. It's too hard. Don't be a non-husband. Go help your wife before Pesach. There's a time you have to help your wife. There's a time you have to help your wife. It's not always you learn Torah and she cleans and cooks and takes care of the kids. There are times you have to help your wife. Unless she doesn't want to. When she says, no, honey, I don't want you to help me. You go learn Torah. That is different. Then she decided. But don't decide on her. Don't decide for her. It has to, learning Torah is not a decision just by you. It's a partnership. The Rambam continues and he says that if a person wants to acquire Torah, in Halakha number 6 he says he should know that he should not set his sights on acquiring Torah together with wealth and honor. Meaning if you're planning on acquiring Torah and becoming rich at the same time, you're never going to get Torah. And some people, they say, yeah, I want to finish the Shas. I have like momentum. I want to finish the whole Shas tonight. But they also want to sleep. They want to finish the whole Gemara in one night. They have such momentum and such excitement to learn Torah, but they also want to sleep too. This Mishnah is telling you, listen, Habibi, you're not going to be able to learn the whole Torah and sleep at the same time. It just doesn't work. Without suffering, without sacrifice, no Torah. No Torah. Not a life of Torah and not limud Torah. If you think that the life of Torah is going to be easy, simple, you have the wrong religion. You have the wrong Torah. And he continues in his halakha and he mentions this specific Mishnah. He says, rather, this is the path of Torah. Eat bread with salt, drink water with small measure, sleep on the ground, live a life of difficulty and toil in Torah. The task is not incumbent upon you to complete, nor are you free to abstain from it. Don't worry, you don't have to complete the entire Torah overnight, but don't think that just because you weren't born into a religious family that you're absolved from it. Or that because you're busy, you don't have to do it. You don't have to finish the whole thing today, and you also don't have to give yourself excuses of why you don't have to do it today. If you have acquired much Torah, you have acquired much reward. And that reward is commensurate with the suffering. Meaning, in order for a person to acquire this Torah, there's a certain amount of suffering that's also going to come with it. But what if a person says, the next halakha says, what if a person says, let me take a break from my studying. Interrupt my studying, and let me go make some money. Let me go make some money. And then I'll return and study. That's what the Rambam says 900 years ago. As you can see, nothing new under the sun. Let me go take a break. I'm not going to come to the shiur tonight because I have some work to do. I'm not going to go to the kollel this year because I'm going to make some money this year. I'm not going to learn day and night. I'll learn only an hour here, an hour there, once a week. Why? Because I'm going to make a lot of money this next couple of years, and then I'm going to learn a lot of Torah. He says, I will return to study later. After I buy what I need. And then I can divert my attention from my business and I'll return to studying. The Rambam says, if you consider such thoughts, you will never merit the crown of Torah. Rather, make your work secondary. Your Torah study is a fixed matter. Don't say, when I have free time I will study, for perhaps you will never have free time. So here we see that the Rambam's perspective is very, very different than ours. Meaning that even if you're a very busy executive, you have a big business, you have a small business, you have a new business, you have an old business, you have a new family, you have an old family, No exceptions. Torah has to be the number one reason you are alive. Without learning Torah, there's simply no purpose for a person to live. That is halacha. It's not Yaron Reuven's opinion. Now, we see here that the perspective of this value of Torah that the Chachamim have is extraordinarily different from us. How do they get to this point? Like, what do they see that we don't see? When a rich person sees this Mishnah, he likes it. Why? He has the wrong perspective of Torah. A rich person sees this Mishnah, he remembers this Mishnah by heart. Why? Because when the yeshiva boys come to collect some tzedakah, when the rabbi comes to get some money, he says, listen, Kvod Rav, I don't want to ruin your Torah, but I remember I learned in yeshiva that it says that if you want to earn Torah, you have to eat bread and salt, a little bit of water, live in poverty. So if I give you money, I'm going to ruin the whole thing for you. That's what the stingy rich person says. I don't want to give you tzedakah, I'm going to ruin it for you. I'm trying to help you out, not giving you tzedakah. Rav Galinsky, alav shalom, had actually somebody say this to him one time. But he was as smart as it gets, and he says, you're right. The Mishnah does say what you say, but you forgot one part of the sentence. It says, im atao sekin, meaning if you are the one that wants to get the actual crown of Torah, then you're the one that has to eat a little bit of bread, a little bit of water, sleep on the floor. You have to do it, not somebody else. Not somebody else. There's no reason to ever think that you can save some money giving tzedakah to somebody because you're helping them out. That is Esav. That's what Esav does. Rabbi Yisrael Misalant, alav shalom, used to explain that the gashmiut of האחר זה הרוחניות שלך. Most people think that they have to worry about their own materialism, their own physicality, but other people's spirituality. Why? They see somebody else that's slacking on Shabbat, slacking on some mitzvot, they'll tell him something. Listen, Achi, I'm helping you out. You should keep Shabbat. I'm helping you out. Your wife's wearing a wig. I'm helping you out. The kippah is a little too small. I'm helping you out. You said Lashon Hara. Lashon Hara, Lashon Hara, no chelek v'lo haba. It's a lot of bad things says in the Torah. We're always worried about each other's spirituality. But when that same friend comes to you and says, listen, I'm kind of short this month on mortgage. Kind of short. There's a rent payment. I don't have the money. It's due tomorrow. You know anybody that can help me? Now you have $3,000 in your pocket now. You're walking around. You have the money. You don't need it. Like, yeah, Achi, it's a tough problem you have, but believe in Hashem. Believe in Hashem. Hashem's going to help you. Rabbi Yisrael Misalan says that's Esav. That's Esav. Why? Instead of worrying about his physicality, you're worrying about his spirituality. Opposite. Worry about your own spirituality and his physicality. Don't throw Hashem's name into the equation because you're trying to save some money. A lot of people do this all the time. Yeah, somebody else will donate. No, it's somebody else. They must be doing well. Somebody else will donate. Baruch Hashem, every week I see the same people, Baruch Hashem, donate to the shiurim. And wonderful people, they donate, but it also makes me upset. Why? Because you have 50, 100, 200, 500 people sometimes watching the shiurim between YouTube and Facebook and so on. But the same 3 or 4 people always say donate, 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 and no one listens. They donate, they say they donate a few dollars, and they tell people, why don't you donate? You're watching a 3-hour shiur, for heaven's sake. Even a movie's $20. Donate $10 for heaven's sake. You have enough money to pay for internet. Donate $5, $10, $100, $200. You went to dinner. It cost you $200. You can't give $50? No. Somebody else is going to donate. It's always somebody else's mitzvah. Rabotai, you have to help. You have to help. Being cheap on Hashem is not a good decision. If you're going to go spend $100 on dinner, but zero on Torah, just so you know, Hashem knows that. Hashem knows that. Because, but somebody else already donated $150 today or $500 today, so it's enough for today. Next week I'll donate. They look at the numbers, because sometimes there's numbers on the internet. It shows you, somebody donated $300 or $500 or $50, whatever it is, and they see, today you already got the $500, so he doesn't need it today. There's there's enough already today. Rabbi Yisrael Misalant says, don't do cheshbonot shamayim. Don't do cheshbonot shamayim for somebody else. Don't do the accounting for your friend. If you want to do the accounting for yourself. Do the accounting for yourself. Why? Because every single middah, every single character trait that you have can be used for good or evil. So the Talmidim of the Rabbi Yisrael Misalant came to him and says, Kvod Harav, you're saying that every middah can be used for good and evil? To serve Hashem? He says, yes. Or go against Hashem? He said, yes. He said, okay, so what about arrogance? What about arrogance? How can arrogance? Hashem hates arrogance. Rabbi Yisrael says to them, arrogance, Gemara Masechet Brachot says, anyone at Tzarav, Talmid Chacham, has to have 1/8 of arrogance. 1/8 of arrogance. Why? If he's umlad, no one listens to him, he's like a little this, has no arrogance in him at all, no one's going to listen to him. So all of his Torah stays inside him. What use is that? He has to have a little bit of so people listen to him. But don't be korach. A little bit of Why? Because you have to have Torah. Arrogance can be used for good. Arrogance can be bad. You can be korach also. So I say, okay, Kvod Harav, tough one. Kfirah. Heresy. How can you use heresy to serve Hashem? Heresy, by definition, is against Hashem. You think you're fool, Rabbi Yisrael Misalant. It's easy. Heresy you use when somebody comes for you for tzedakah, and you say to him, Hashem's going to help you. Don't worry. I know your situation is tough. I know you're trying to do good things, but don't worry. Hashem's going to help you. At that moment, be a heretic. Say, Hashem's not going to help you. Let me help you. Here's $100. Be a heretic at that moment. Hashem's not going to help you. You're avud. You're miskin. You're umlal. Hashem doesn't like you at all. Let me help you. At that point, become a heretic. Why? Because the reality is your responsibility is to serve Hashem. Don't make excuses. Everything can be used to serve Hashem. Everything. Just have to know how to use it. Just have to know how to use it. Rabotai Yekarim, these are people, these are Kedoshei Elyon. These are people that knew and understood the value of Torah. They're not telling you that you need to live a homeless life, but they're telling you that you have to value Torah more than you value your own life. Masechet Kala Rabati, Perek 5, Halacha number 5, there's a story between Rav and Rav Kapara, where Rav saw Rav Kapara enjoying himself, doing something that's pleasuring, maybe sauna of some kind, or something that was taking care of himself. And he says to him, Kvod Harav, don't you know that you're not supposed to enjoy yourself in this world? You're supposed to inherit Torah by taking on some suffering, and not spending your time going to do your toenails and fingernails, getting a haircut once a week. That's not what you're supposed to do if you want Torah. So Bar Kapara says, no, that's only in regards to ingesting, like overeating, like only things that are relevant to going in your body. Rav said to him, no, it's also outside too. You have to limit it. You have to limit the indulgences you have from this world. Why? Because as you increase your conveniences in life, it becomes very, very difficult for you to separate from them. And in order for the Torah to see that you're paying full attention to it, You have to separate yourself from the materialism, meaning that if you're going to eat steak, but also learn Torah at the same time, Torah is going to tell you, you're not paying attention to me. You're paying attention to the steak. I'll come back later. You can read and listen to a shiur and do whatever you want, but Torah is not staying with you. Why? You're not giving it the proper attention it deserves. You're not giving it the proper attention. It's Hashem's daughter is here, but you're busy eating a steak. Okay, so you can listen to a shiur Torah in the background. It's definitely better than nonsense, but it's not going to be the Torah that's going to make you a Talmid Chacham. It's good to have, but it's not. That should not be your main limud. It's good, but it's not the main thing. You're not going to become Talmid Chacham by only learning when you're eating, only learning when you're doing something else. When you learn Torah, it has to be Torah, and Torah only. David HaMelech is the one that taught us this. Where did he teach us this? In Tehillim 119, verse 71. David HaMelech says something that this generation simply does not understand, even what the value of it is. He first begins with verse 67, and David HaMelech is talking to Hashem. He says, before I was afflicted, before I had suffering, I erred, meaning I made a mistake, I made a sin. But now, I keep your word, meaning I did tshuva, Hashem. Here we already see one of the sources of there's no suffering without sin. From who? David HaMelech, Melech Mashiach, is telling us, Hashem, I know I had some suffering in my life, but I know it's my fault. But now I did tshuva. Now I keep your word. You are good and beneficent. Teach me your statutes, meaning teach me Torah, Hashem. But then he continues in verse 71, and he says, Tov li kiunati leman elmat chukecha. Tov li turat picha me'alfei zahav v'kesef. He says to Hashem, your Torah is my preoccupation. It's good for me that I was afflicted, so that I might learn your statutes. Your Torah, the Torah of your mouth is better for me than 1,000 in gold and silver. He says, Hashem, thank you for bringing suffering to my life, because it made me realize that the only thing of value is this Torah. This Torah is more valuable than any gold, any silver, any material in the world. So thank God that I actually had to suffer first, because that's the only way that I realize what's actually valuable in life. So here we see that actually even David HaMelech, Melech Mashiach, is actually telling us here something extraordinary, that if you want to inherit Torah, there's no such thing as just enjoying yourself and having Torah. The same token doesn't mean that you have to kill yourself either. Rav Mazuz, Sheikhye, is one of the Gedolei Ador, in many opinions is the main Gedolei Ador right now. He has a shiur every Motzei Shabbat. And he also has a newsletter in Israel that the last number that I got, they give out over 60,000 a week. 60,000 copies printed a week, and it's not enough. It's not enough. People fight over his Divrei Torah. They fight for it. He said a story in his last shiur that Rav Chaim told me, that he has a lot of amazing stories that are literally just out of nowhere. It's in the deepest midrashim, stuff that you have to be mamash, you have to know where to look and how to look and what to read and who to read. It's just amazing stories he has. He says a story I've never heard before, and I don't think many people did either, including the Breslevers. Rabbi Nachman Breslev, alav shalom, didn't become Rabbi Nachman Breslev when he was 20 or 30. He became Rabbi Nachman Breslev when he was 6. How? At 6 years old, Rabbi Nachman Breslev, at 6 years old, when we were still barely out of diapers, at 6 years old, he made a commitment. What commitment did he make? He made a commitment to have the same plan of eating like the Vilna Gaon, which is, don't enjoy your food. Whatever you take, eat in one bite without chewing. Swallow it immediately. Why? Chas v'shalom, you enjoy the food. Eat twice a day. Once in the morning, once at night. Don't ever use your teeth. Don't chew anything. Swallow it immediately. Why? Just eat to fill yourself up and go serve Hashem. And make sure that after every seudah, after every meal, once in the morning, once at night, you learn a masechet. You learn an entire Gemara tractate. Rav Mazuz says he would finish 60 masechets per month. Alvay alenu to finish 60 masechets a year. 60 masechets a month. It makes you want to kill yourself when you learn Torah. You hear such a thing. You're like, he's 6 years old. I didn't know how to read. It's a different generation though. But Rav Mazuz says no one should ever even think they should try such a thing in this generation. Why? We're not the same breed of people. Either way, he abused his body to such an extent that later on in his life, when he was already in his 30s, he would spit blood, like chunks of blood, until he died at 39 years old. He died very young. Like many people think that, you hear Rabbi Nachman Breslov, sometimes you see pictures, really old man. No old man, he's 39 years old. 39 years old, he died. He abused his body so much for the sake of Torah that his body gave up. But his neshama, alvai elenu to be his shoe. Alvai wear a shoestring he used once. Imagine, forget 6 years old, put that aside. 60 years old. Learn one masechet a day.
Wouldn't it have been better for him to eat a little properly and live longer and learn more?
I have to be his shoe first in order to know how he walks. For me to judge how and what he did would mean that I understand anything that he did. I just know how to tell the stories. For somebody that can learn a masechet in one day, to me, might as well be Moshe Rabbeinu. I told you guys a story yesterday that I know somebody that completed the entire masechet Shabbat on Shabbat. Now, someone that never learned Gemara in their life doesn't really understand the value of such a thing. They're thinking, oh yeah, he read a book. Big deal. That means that you're as far from the Torah as the Goyim are. You have no idea what Torah is. Only a real person that studied Gemara understands what it means to learn Gemara. Second of all, only a person that completed Masechet Shabbat understands what Masechet Shabbat is. And only a person that has actually learned the Shas understands what it means to learn this Masechet even in a few months. Forget about, or even a week. Forget about in a day. It's almost not possible for most people in this generation. So when you hear a story from this generation, somebody did it, wow. But you see, still, even that person couldn't do it again. He almost killed himself doing it. His heart almost gave out. It's so hard. It's not like you're reading like us here. We're like, all comfortable. And, I'm telling you some things, and some things are funny, some things are scary, and you're all comfortable, and sometimes half asleep and half awake. No. 24 hours of like engine running at full speed, because it's the only chance you have to finish over 150 dapim. Dapim is not pages. Each page in Gemara is 2. And anyway, if you compare it to regular books today, each Gemara page is probably the equivalent of maybe 12 to 15 of a regular book. And if you look at the material, each page of Gemara is like an entire library. One page is like an entire library. So only a person that learns Gemara understands anything that I just said. But what I'm trying to tell you is that even this giant Chacham that did it all in one day, in 24 hours, is still not at the level of Rabbi Nachman, of when he was 6 years old. Not Rabbi Nachman when he was 39, or 38, or 37, or 36, when everybody knew he was. At 6. What do you think? Just anybody becomes, put some payas on, everybody starts dancing his name in the world and going to his grave every year. Just everybody has such a merit. A lot of people die every day. 18 million people die every year. 18 million people. It's a lot of people. How many people do you think actually get anybody to visit their grave? Almost nobody. Almost no one. With the exception of the original death. After that, maybe once a year. For 10% of them, at best. Rabbi Nachman Breslev, Rabotai Karim, was something of a different species, and this is only a couple of hundred years ago. This is not 5,000 years ago. But Rabbi Nachman Breslev, he himself was a student, a following student of the original Chassidut, of who? Of the Baal Shem Tov. Chassidut started with the Baal Shem Tov. But the Baal Shem Tov himself said that if people knew who the Maharsha was, who only lived 100 years before him, meaning the Baal Shem Tov was alive 100 years after the Maharsha. Maharsha's name is Rabbi Shmuel Eliezer Eidels. And the Baal Shem Tov, the head of the Chassidut, the beginner of the Chassidut movement, wrote, if people knew who the Maharsha was, they would go to his grave and lick the dust around his grave. They would lick the dust, they would lick it. If they just knew who he was, how much of a giant he was. What are some stories about the Maharsha, who you find in almost every page in the Gemara? I had a couple of stories from Rav Chaim today. It's stories that are from a different world. It might as well be like a different time, a different civilization, a different world. But these are not fairy tales. These stories have witnesses, writings, multiple unbiased reports. It's not just some fairy tales. Oh yeah, this happened and that happened. Like, for example, a lot of people have a problem believing certain stories of the sages because they sound so far away from our reality. And you're right, they are far away from our reality. But that's not because of the story. It's because they have Torah. We have Babkis. When you have Torah, Rabotai, the world changes for you. Nature operates according to you. When you don't have Torah, you're simply part of nature, like a fly, if that much. The Maharsha, Alav Shalom, lived at a time of almost 500 years ago, at a time where there was still a lot of witchcraft in the world, especially practiced by the Christians. And there was one particular priest that had serious witchcraft, where any time somebody would come next to his church, he would put some type of spell on them and literally cause them to come inside his church. And the problem for Am Yisrael was, the people that lived there, was that this church, this evil person, was one of two options to get to a certain destination that everybody had to go learn Torah and so on. Now they could either go on his road and risk him catching you and bringing you into church against your will, and many people ended up converting because of it to Christianity and falling to idolatry because of it, like literally under spells, or you go a different direction. But it's much, much longer and much more dangerous. Animals, snakes, and so on and so forth. So many people went in this direction and fell, and a lot of people ended up actually going and converting to Christianity because of it. Eventually they told the Maharsha about this person, and it's late in his days, and he told the people, before I die, he wrote a letter and he gave him instructions. When I die, make sure that before you bury me, you take my body to that road. Pass by him. Pass by his church. That was the instructions of the Rav. He says we do. He died. They took his body. All of the people of the thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands of people came and says, Dol just died. Everyone's coming, but they're all coming in the dangerous direction. This witchcraft priest sees them and he is having a blast. Why? He's like, I'm going to convert all of them in one shot. I'm going to get all of them to come to my church. He's getting ready, and people are starting to hear witchcraft usually has association with different types of sounds that are scary. Dogs barking and all types of strange things happening. So people are getting scared of what's happened, but immediately, as soon as they get in front of this church, the Malshah gets up from the dead. Takes his book that he wrote a Pirush, commentary, takes the book that he told them specifically to bury him with this book, takes this book and starts learning Torah. Every 10 seconds that he's learning Torah, the building starts going into the ground. Within the next few moments, the building goes completely underground. The only thing that's left is a pole sticking out of the ground. And some say that they know exactly where this pole is, that until this day they left it there as a remembrance. This is what happened when you mess with the Malshah. He finished studying, went back to sleep, went to Olam Ha'emet. Now if you don't believe such a story, that's your problem. But Chazal is full of stories like this. This is our foundation. This is our Torah. This is not something that's it's the first or last time you're ever going to hear these stories. All of the Chachamim have something like that to do with them. When you are constantly involved with Torah, your world is very, very different. The way you perceive the world, the way you see things, the way you deal with things, your general life is very different. But even the Maharsha was not the Maharsha like people thought his whole life, because he made a stance or a vow that he's not going to disclose to people who he was. So for many years, not only did people not know that he is a tzaddik, but they thought he's a fool. One day, this shamash that was a tzaddik also was doing tikkun chatzot. Tikkun chatzot is a very righteous thing to do. Person that wants to mourn over the Bet HaMikdash every day at around midnight approximately. There's a specific time. Throughout the year it changes. Midnight changes according to the Jewish clock. That you read something in your siddur in order to mourn for the Bet HaMikdash. And a person that mourns for the Bet HaMikdash is promised that he'll see the Bet HaMikdash. Anyway, this tikkun chatzot is something that righteous people do. Alvay aleinu. And the shamash was doing it. But as he's reading and he's crying, he's trying to stay awake, he's going through the night with his learning and praying. He falls asleep. All of a sudden, the shamash feels somebody nudging him. Excuse me. Wakes up, sees a tall, beautiful man. Like something he's never seen before, such beauty. Not chas v'shalom, disgusting homosexuality. I'm talking about just, you see certain people are beautiful. Complexion, shiny skin, beautiful, just like something really big. And he's in shock. Like, yes, how did you get in? Doesn't matter how I get in, because everything was locked. Where is the Marsha Kadosh? He goes, who? The Marsha Kadosh. Marsha Kadosh, Marsha. Oh, you mean Shmuel? We don't call you this Marsha. It was an acronym for his name. Shmuel, the Shmuel Yezer. This one, yeah, he's there. Why do you want him? Where is he? Yeah, Shmuel. Yeah, where is he? So he went to the door, showed him that way. Go, that's his house over there. The next day, he says, locking the doors, no one's coming in. Locking the windows, no one's coming in. Shamash goes back, starts praying, starts crying, starts learning, but before you know it, he falls asleep. All of a sudden, he gets a tap. He sees another beautiful man, but this one has a red complexion, red hair, also very handsome, a little shorter, but very, very handsome and just something unusual. He says, where's the Marsha Kadosh, Kodesh Kodashim? Where is he? Where is he? We don't call him Marsha. How'd you get in? It doesn't matter how I get in. Where is he? Where is his house? Goes, it's up, shows him, it's down the street, that little shack over there, that's his house. The next day, this time, he made sure everything is locked, the windows, the doors, as there's chairs, because he doesn't want anyone to disturb him. He closes everything, but of course, the same thing repeats. He falls asleep, and he's woken up by this unusual but beautiful man that has piercing blue eyes. Something out of this world. Very commanding features. He says, where's the Marsha Kadosh? And now he's had it, this Shamash. I'm not telling you, he grabs him, I'm not telling you until you tell me who you are and how did you even get in here? And what do you all want from the Shmuel? The blue-eyed man responds and says to him, I'm Eliyahu Navi. I'm Eliyahu Navi, and I'm here to help in a trial. Trial? What trial? He says, ever since David HaMelech died, there's been a case, a debate in Shamayim between him and Shaul HaMelech. Because both were righteous. Both were tzadikim. They say that when Shaul became a melech, he was perfect like a 2-year-old. Meaning, no sins. Made one sin in his life. But instead of saying, I'm sorry, when the prophet told him you made a sin, instead of saying, I'm sorry, he said, no, I didn't sin. And he said, no, you did sin. He goes, okay, I sinned. He goes, yeah, it's too late, Hashem. Too late. Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, you're sorry, too late. That's it. Tomorrow you're going to die. No malchut. King David is taking your malchut. One sin. One, guys. We make one sin an hour. If, alvai. One sin a minute sometimes. One sin in his life. Why? What did he do? Nothing. He didn't do tshuva right away. We see David made a couple. If it wasn't written, we wouldn't be allowed to say it. But each time, I'm sorry, immediately, no questions asked. But ever since David HaMelech died, there's been a case in Shamayim between Shaul against David. Why? Because at one point, David HaMelech was hiding from Shaul. Shaul was trying to kill him. He thought that David was trying to steal the malchut. So he put a psak din that David was a rodef, meaning that he's trying to kill me, so I have to kill him first. So David went to a city called Nov to hide, a city of Kohanim. And he hid over there, but this Rasha Merusha Doeg, who was a huge Talmid Chacham, full of Torah, and head of the Sanhedrin, saw him. And he saw that all the Kohanim were helping David, meaning they were going against Shaul HaMelech. He told Shaul, look what's happening. All your Kohanim, they're all going against you. They're all harboring your enemy. That's why Doeg Adami has no share of the world to come, by the way. But now, Shaul HaMelech says, okay, you're going against the Malchut, all these Kohanim going against the Malchut, I have to kill all of them. So he told his soldiers, go kill all of them. Soldiers said, you want us to kill all of the Gdolei Ador? Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Shimon, the Tosfot, all of the Tosfot, Rav Ovadia, the Steipler Gaon, Rav Kanievsky, the Ben Ishchai. He wants to kill all of them? Yeah, you go kill them. We're not killing them. The soldiers were all tzadikim. Who was willing to go kill them? Doeg. Doeg Adomi went and killed every single one of them. But now there's the case. What's the case? Is that it's not fair. Why? Because David made a false impression. He was telling him that he's not really against me, but really he was against me. So there's a case. There's a case in Shamayim between David and Shaul. And in Shamayim they decided, Eliyahu Navi says to the Shamash, in Shamayim they decided only the Marsha Kadosh could be a Dayan here. Marsha, who's still alive, 3,000 years later, he's the Dayan. He has to be a Psak Din. So 2 days ago he tells the Shamash, Shaul HaMelech came to you. He was looking to go talk to the Marsha. Yesterday he was the tall, handsome man. Came back to life to go talk to the Marsha. Yesterday, David HaMelech came to you to go talk to the Marsha. Where's the Marsha Kadosh? And I'm just here to help the trial. I'm Eliyahu Navi. But now he tells them, because you saw everything you saw, if you tell anyone, you're going to die. The Shamash knew that its obligation is to die. Why? Because everyone until that day thought that the Marsha was a Shmuel, nothing, nobody. They didn't realize it's the biggest tzaddik in the world. So he told everybody, this is the story, and you'll see that as soon as I finish the story, I'm going to die in front of you. That's exactly what happened. He told the crowd the story, and he died at the end of the story. In front of everyone. As proof, this all happened. Rabotai Karim, the tzaddikim were from this world, but a different world. Every single one of us has the obligation to ask themselves every day, when are my deeds going to be like the deeds of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov? Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov are bigger than anybody I mentioned so far today. Bigger than Marsha, bigger than Eliyahu Navi, bigger than anyone that you can mention. Why? That's our forefathers. And we have to ask ourselves, when will our actions be like theirs? When will we be like them? Now the only way we can do such a thing is if we start treating Torah like it's supposed to be treated. You have to chase it, Shlomo HaMelech says, like you chase a treasure. If you have an opportunity to do a mitzvah, there shouldn't even be a contemplation of anything getting in the way. There shouldn't ever be any type of contemplation of something delaying it. No, you know what? I could do it later. I could study later. I come to shiur next week. I'll donate later. I'll donate tomorrow. I'll do something later. Tzadikim, people that are trying to be tzadikim, that value Torah, they knew you have an opportunity to do a mitzvah now. Why? Later may not be available. Later may simply not be available. Rabotai, there's a lot of asonot happening in the world today. A lot of tragedies are happening in the world today for tzaddikim. Yesterday I told a few of you a story that I know personally of a young girl. Her family, their whole house burned down a few months ago. They lost everything. Now these are not fools. These are not Amei Haaretz. These are not Goyim that live in Guatemala. No, these are Jews that live in Eretz HaKodesh, learn Torah all day, all night, but had a kaparat avonot. The whole house, all of what they had, burned down. No problem. Gather together, try again, rebuild. We knew somebody that was able to donate a little bit to them. And we tried to help whatever way we can. Unfortunately, sometimes when Am Yisrael makes enough sins, the tzaddikim have to suffer. Because one tzaddik or tzaddikah could be worth the life of 10, 20, 100, 200,000 people that are not tzaddikim. So if losing all of their possessions was not enough, a day and a half ago, their 11-year-old daughter was playing with her friend's jump rope. 11 years old. She was playing jump rope. She fell. She died. In the morning, her father was telling my Rav, thank you very much for sending the washing machine and help. Thank you. An hour later, 11-year-old daughter dies. You can't explain things like this. Another person that I know very well, Tzaddik. He's actually helping us with our book. He did some of the editing to our book. Talmid Chacham, Baruch Hashem, family, 13 kids, works 3 or 4 jobs. I should say worked 3 or 4 jobs. A couple of months ago, felt some pain, went to the hospital. They told him that you have to have immediate heart surgery. He's only in his 50s, was relatively healthy until this point, very strong, healthy, knows Torah, Midot, that don't even belong in his generation. Has a surgery, recovery was supposed to be good, but it was supposed to take a while. After a few days of the surgery, somebody in the hospital infects him with a virus that doesn't have a cure. He lost over 100 pounds, more than 60% of his body weight in the last couple of weeks. Whether he lives or not, we don't know. What we do know is that he has 13 kids and a wife. Now, a few of his kids are out of the house already and married, Baruch Hashem, but most of his kids are still young. They still need to eat. They still need to live. I had 2 young men show up to my house on Friday. I never saw them, never met them. One guy tells me his wife died last year from lack of money for treatment for medicine. So now he's part of an organization that's trying to help other people. The guy that was right next to him, his wife is sick. Not able to, he's usually the one that learns. She's the one that works. Now since she's sick and we don't know if she's even going to survive, he has to go collect money because what are you going to do? You can't just go decide, walk into Microsoft, they give me a job. I've been learning Torah my whole life. Maybe I can teach Bill Gates. What are you going to do? You go collect money. Part of what we do is help these families. Now, of course, most of what we do is we teach Torah. We publicize books, CDs, posters. But a lot of what we do behind closed doors is fulfill the Torah. There's never an opportunity that we have an ability to help that we don't help. And we don't think about it twice. We don't think about it 3 times. We don't have a board meeting. If you have the money in your pocket and you're not using it currently, then we just simply use it to do mitzvot. So you don't think about, oh yeah, but I'm going to need on Tuesday, I have payroll. I have to pay the employees. And every week, it's not cheap. You have to pay people. They have a salary. They have this. Yeah, but it's not Tuesday. It's Tuesday next week, which means I have another week for Hashem to send me the money some other way. And this is the way we operate. So every week it's a new miracle. But the reality is that Hashem will continue sending you opportunities to help people. Lately, Baruch Hashem, He sent a lot of people. And we can't help everybody. We simply don't have the ability, we don't have the funding. So anyone that's watching that has a little bit of heart, you see these campaigns on the internet where people literally raise hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars for sometimes people that need it and sometimes people that don't need it so much. Like when I saw that the people in Pittsburgh raised millions of dollars, I wanted to vomit. With all due respect to the people that died, those millions of dollars have nothing to do with them. They're not getting it. instead of donating to the large organizations that have already millions and millions of dollars that they're not even using, and I only know this because I was in the investment business. They were my clients. People love to donate to organizations that already have $1 billion in the bank, $100 million in the bank, $5 million in the bank. They do these campaigns to raise $10 million in one day, $1 million in one day. And people donate like their money is like old and they want to get rid of it instead of it not go bad. But when it comes to an organization that actually is helping people and actually uses every penny it has, all of a sudden everybody's broke. They send you 18, 15, 13, 12, 100 once in a while, 1,000 once in a while. But the reality is, Rabotai, we use every single penny that we have for people. Why? Because that's the point of Torah. That's the point of Torah. If a person values Torah, he has to understand there's no more me. There's no more my desire, what I want, what I have, my plan for retirement, my safety net, my safety egg, my this egg. All that is shtuyot. You see people that are bnei Torah, that are struggling, they don't have food to eat. You got to do whatever you can to help them. So all the mussar that we're learning is all wonderful. But the reality is that we're living very comfortably in America. And there are people that are the only reason why we're alive in this world, that I honestly don't know why everything is happening. And it's not my ability or my right to ask Hashem anything. But what I do know is that if an opportunity is given to you, that means Hashem wants you to do something about it. That means Hashem wants you to do something about it. So if all of those people that are saving for retirement or for the vacation or for the next meal for $300 a week and all of that other stuff, these are the things you have to consider. You don't have to donate if you don't want to. I'm not asking anybody. I usually don't even talk about money. I hate to talk about it. But the reality is, Rabotai, is that I'm seeing dead people every day. I'm seeing people that are literally suffering and struggling. But yet everybody else is sending me these questions about, I forgot to pray mincha on time today. Am I going to go to Gehenom? No, but you most likely will go to Gehenom if you continue having $50,000 in your brokerage account and you donate $18 a month. That you'll probably go to Gehenom for. But the mincha, most likely not. Why? Because that money shouldn't be sitting there parked, collecting dust. There's people not needed in the world. Ribbono shel olam. That's the thing, Rabotai. You want to be a tzaddik, you want to be tzaddikah, you have to start acting like one. And I'm not saying donate every dollar you have and make yourself broke, because that's not allowed either. But we have to start realizing that there's people that need help. There's things that need help. Am Yisrael right now is predominantly kofrim. Am Yisrael right now is predominantly going against the Torah. There's almost 80, 90% don't even keep Shabbat. Which means that unless we get millions and millions of dollars to reach every single one of them, simply they'll just stay that way. Why? Because, unfortunately, not many Kiruv organizations actually do Kiruv. With all due respect to the buildings they built and the rabbis they like and the ones they don't like, the reality is the amount of, relative to the amount of money some of the organizations have to the Baalei Tshuva that they have, it doesn't make any sense. When an organization tells you, last year with $1.5 million drive that we did, we got 300 kids to go to yeshiva, or 30 kids, or whatever it was. To be honest with you, $1.5 million, you build a yeshiva. $1.5 million, you build a yeshiva. You build a few yeshivot. You only helped 300 kids with $1 million? $1.5 million? Where'd the money go then? People are donating millions and millions of dollars for what? For shtuyot. What? So these other organizations could build another synagogue? We need Jews, not synagogues. We need Jews, Rabotai. We need Jews to become Jewish, and we need the ones that are already Jewish, that are already Shomrei Torah Mitzvot, and already religious, that are struggling. We need to help them. Those should be the number one priority, more than anything else in the world. Why? Because that is fulfilling the Torah. So all of what we learned over the last couple of years of this Mishnayot is all wonderful. But the Mishnah here is telling you something. If you want to make sacrifices as far as struggling, as far as lowering the amount of sleep, as far as lowering the amount of expenses, as far as abusing your body for the sake of staying awake and not sleeping 8 hours like the average bum, sleeping 3 or 4 hours, but still using that time to learn Torah, you can do it. Do it. That's how you're going to get the crown of Torah. But for your fellow Jew, that's a shomer Torah and mitzvot, that's struggling, the family that has a dead parent, the family that has a dead sister, the family that doesn't have money for food for Shabbat, for them, don't talk to them about this. Don't tell them, oh, no, Hashem will help you. No. It's time for you to realize Hashem put you in a situation to help. It's time for you to help. It's time for you to help. Why? You can struggle for you. You can't tell other people, no, it's okay, you're struggling. This, Rabotai, for all of these people that keeps wondering, am I righteous enough? Am I righteous enough? Am I righteous enough? Being righteous starts with the tools you already have. What tools do you have now? Some people have brain power. Go use that brain power. Go learn some Torah. Go work on your midot. Some people have money. Go use that money. Do what you need to do. Some people have both. Now, just because you have brain power doesn't mean you go leave everything and you become a yeshiva boy overnight. Why? Because first you have to get yourself used to toiling over Torah. It's not a normal subject like university. So work and learn. Once you see that you're learning a few hours a day and working is not enough, then you increase it and so on and so forth, and maybe eventually learn full time. But a lot of people are worried about, no, I want to learn the entire Torah overnight. It doesn't work that way. Hashem doesn't want you to do it either. Why? Because when you take too much in one shot, you break. You donate too much in one shot, you break. You do anything too much in one shot, you break. But at the same token, doing too little is not going to help anybody. Doing too little is not going to help anybody. I had one time a person would send me like, I think $1 a day or $2 a day. Because I mentioned in the shiur that the Rambam mentioned that you should send a pruta every day. Send something every day. Do something every day. Tzedakah. Because over time this will help you get over the cheapness, the stinginess, Middah, where you become generous over time. Now this is great. It's great if somebody does it, but the reality is that most people don't do it for an extended period of time. They do it 10, 20, 30 times, and unless they take the leap of faith and do something big after that, they don't continue, and that entire 20 times just goes to waste. It was better off they just did one time, because that way the actual money stays, because there's so many transaction costs. The key, Rabotai, is to make sure that everything we do requires sometimes small steps, sometimes big steps. Sometimes the only step available is a big step. Sometimes the only step available is a big step. It can never be only big steps. It can never be only small steps. It always has to be a balance. It always has to be a balance. This is something that each and every one of us has to evaluate ourselves. I can tell you from my own personal life, only times that I had anything valuable happening, anything significant in my life, is when I made a big step. Small steps got me going. The big steps are the ones that got me to do something useful in my life. Why? That's the way Hashem works. That's the way the Torah works. That's the way it works. The whole world works. So, Torah is telling you here that these Chachamim did not become Chachamim overnight. There are rules to do everything. Sometimes a person cannot learn Torah like the Shulchan Aruch commands him to. Can't learn Torah in the morning and at night. So the Rama says, no problem. There's a solution for you. You still can get Olam Haba. What? Use that money that you're working so hard for to fund Torah. Fund Kiruv, fund the Talmid Chacham. Their studying of Torah will be like you studying Torah. But don't think that if you're donating $10, $20, $30 out of your $5,000 a month paycheck, that's like learning Torah. No, Habibi. There's no discounts here. You have to understand, if you want the Torah to be valuable, you have to donate it as if it's a salary for the other person. Meaning, it has to be equivalent to the person living on it. So meaning, if the person, let's say, needs $2,000 a month to survive, him and his kids, if you gave him $18, it's not really going to change much of his life, but you bought 1% of his Torah. Okay, so 1% is okay, but it's not that much. You're not going to Gan Eden for 1% Torah. You'll get some schar, you'll get some good things, but let's be realistic here. But if you give him $500, every month you're giving the guy $500, okay, so you got 1 week of Torah. It's definitely better. It's not yet everything, but it's definitely better. Meaning, in order for a person to do Issachar and Zvulun, the deal, Issachar and Zvulun, it has to be literally, you have to give the person enough for him to live. Why? So he doesn't have to worry about money. Now, not everybody has the ability to do it, because most of us are living above our means. Most of us have one too many cars, one too many stuff, and Amazon boxes arriving at a house every 5 minutes, and groceries more than we need. We buy for 3 weeks, only for 1 week. And we all go to Costco, and we all go to the grocery store, and we buy a bunch of stuff that goes bad by the time we want to eat it. And all of us consume and consume and consume. So in reality, most of the money we make goes to waste. So this Mishnah is telling you, you can't learn a lot of Torah. Maybe you could pay for it. Okay, so what are you going to do? Before you waste money, start evaluating your money as Torah. Okay, I can't learn Torah in the morning, at night, like I'm supposed to. I can learn some. I can learn a half hour in the morning, half hour at night. I can't learn 2-3 hours every morning, every night. So I know a half hour in the morning, half hour at night is not really enough. So I have to make up for it. So the next time before you go to dinner with friends, where you know it's going to cost you at least $150, $200, and if you're in New York, just add another $100 to that. And if you're going to some alcohol place where you're going to drink some alcohol, just add another couple $100 to that. Before you go to the next nightclub and show off that you can buy bottles, before you go to the next place and buy your wife that extra precious diamond ring she doesn't really need, or add the navigation system to the car that you're not really going to use, or buy the rims that you're never going to use, and all this stuff that we waste our money on, before you do it, say, wait a minute, how much Torah can I buy with this $200? I could buy 200 CDs. That means I can make, most likely, 20 Baalei Tshuva. But even if we're conservative, let's say 1 Baal Tshuva. 1 Baal Tshuva, that's 310 worlds where everything is good in them. It's a pretty decent deal. Okay, what else can I do with this $200? Well, I can buy 10% of the Torah of an Avrech, of someone that learns Torah. Well, that every minute, that he's alive, and he does a mitzvah, I'm part of it. Every letter he says in the Torah that he learns goes to my account, 10% of it. He learns 80 hours, 90 hours, 100 hours a week. I have 10% of that. It's a lot of Torah. It's a lot of Torah. I can actually save family from completely losing it because they just lost a kid, they just lost a husband, they just lost a mother, they just lost a lung, they just lost something. And instead of everybody breaking from the disaster, I can be the tzaddik that saves the day and say, here, you don't have to worry about at least one thing. You have a lot of worries. You have a lot of problems I can't solve. Your daughter, your husband, your health problems, your house I can't solve any of that stuff. But I can save something. Here, this month, you don't need to worry about expenses. This month, here you go. So a person, before he wastes his money, if he values Torah, these are the things he thinks about. These are the things he thinks about. And if he starts chasing Torah like he chases treasure, then Hashem will not only give him many opportunities to fulfill his desire, but will also give him the ability to fulfill it. Meaning that if he wants to give 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, 100,000, $1 million, he wants to give it, Hashem will give him the ability to do it. But don't be Esav and say, well, only when I get to 1 million, then I'll give the whole million. But now that I have 100 or 200, I'm not going to give it. That's not enough to help anyway. That's Esav. That's Esav. You see, Rabotai Karim, I see a lot of people help. Baruch Hashem, God bless each and every one of you. You help. But there's a lot of people that don't. And the reality is that all of us have to start thinking, is there anyone else in this world other than me? And the answer is yes. And anyone that benefits from Torah cannot just think that they're just going to benefit, and it's just going to come for free. Because the reality is there's people in need. Torah needs to stay alive. You're not giving the money to me. You're not building me any houses. What you're doing is you're helping people. So these, Rabotai, are some of the things that we're learning from this Mishnah. To finalize it all, the Mesilat Yesharim says a person has to realize that he's only in this world to toil for Torah. He's not here to rest. He's not here to relax. This world is simply for labor and exertion. He has to conduct himself like he's one of these soldiers that's in the front lines who has to eat in haste. He has to eat really in a hurry because he's going to go to battle any minute. He has to sleep in irregular hours because any minute there's more Torah to learn. Any minute there's more mitzvot to do. He has to be prepared for battle. Ki Adam le'amal yulad. The Prophet Job, chapter 5, verse 7 says, a man was born to labor. He came to this world in order to serve Hashem. How do you serve Hashem? You become a giant in Torah. You can't do it? Find another way to become a giant in Torah. Sometimes you can be, sometimes you don't want to be. Either way, you're obligated to learn regardless. Either way, you have to fulfill mitzvot regardless. If a person accustoms himself to this type of lifestyle, he'll find that the Shekhinah, the divine service, is easier. It's easier to fulfill mitzvot, fulfill the will of Hashem when you have the proper attitude, the Mesilat Yesharim says. Because this is the way of Torah. And if he does it, he's praiseworthy in this world, and he's praiseworthy in the world to come. Because that means that he'll have good, not just in this world, he'll have good for eternal. But as you notice, it says he's praiseworthy and it's well with him in this world. And he's praiseworthy in the world to come. Why? Because a person that's chasing mitzvot, fulfilling mitzvot, using his money for the right things, using his time for the right things, before he wastes time chit-chatting with friends and smoking cigarettes outside for an hour, he says, you know what, with that hour I can learn another page, another 2 pages of Gemara, another 2 pages of the Chumash, another 2 pages of Halacha. I can do something with that hour. Instead of chit-chatting with my friends and being a loser, talking about nonsense, I can do something else with that hour. He starts valuing his time differently. Before he wastes his money, he's going to value, wait a minute, before I just buy this 18th pair of headphones that I don't need, or 37th pair of sneakers that I'm never going to wear, what else can I do with this money? He's going to value his Torah differently. Why? Because now everything has an image of Torah on it. Money has an image of Torah on it. Time has an image of Torah on it. His wife has an image of Torah on it. Her husband has an image of Torah on it. The kids, everything has Torah associated with it. That's a person that's looking to become praiseworthy. That's looking to become a tzaddik. He associates everything to Torah. What can I fulfill in the Torah? Through this vehicle, through this person, through this time, to this, whatever it is. He starts looking at the world in a different lenses. If he does it, he's praiseworthy and it's well with him in this world. Meaning, Chachamim say, he starts actually living a fruitful life here. Here he becomes happy. With or without the bells and whistles and the cars and the houses, with or without it. When he lives his life with that type of perception, then his life is all well with him. Then he's never missing anything. Then he's actually, what David HaMelech said in Psalm 34 verse 11, V'dorshei Hashem lo yachsaru kol tov. That those who seek Hashem will not lack any good. It doesn't say that they'll have every good, but rather that they won't lack any good. Meaning that all of what their hearts desire, they'll have. Which means that if they go after Hashem, whatever their hearts desire is good, and they'll have it. Be'ezrat Hashem, this gives us the chizuk that we need. Also give an aliyah to the neshama of this tzadikah that passed too early, Aviva Dahan. Also for Refuah Shlema for Sarah Bat Anat and Rav Ephraim Ben Shulamit and Levana Bat Sarah, David Ben Esriya, Doris Bat Jorah, and all of Am Yisrael Tzadikim HaKadoshim that are doing their best to fulfill the will of Hashem in every way, in every form, in every minute. Amen v'amen. Any questions?
On the Mamzer, is there any point in the line of descendancy where he redeems himself from being a Mamzer?
No.
So it just goes all the way down to the end of time?
Well, I mean, technically, if he marries a, convert or another mamzer, if the child marries a convert, and then that convert marries another convert, meaning it could only get out of being a mamzer through converts. That's in essence his ticket out. Convert marrying a convert, then it could eventually get out of it. But if he continues marrying mamzerim, there's no way to do it. It's never over. In general, the Chachamim explained to us that Hashem wants them destroyed. Hashem does not want them to live. Hashem wants that line to be destroyed. And I can tell you that I know from personal story that I know firsthand from the person it's happening to and happened to. It's very much alive and well right now. A person that I know, late in his life, found out that he was the product of incest. Product of incest, Shem Erachem, but he didn't know. His mom and his dad, he never really met his dad. His dad left, but part of the reason was because his mom was encouraged to leave his dad. She didn't know why, but she eventually did. But they had a kid together, so he never saw his dad. And later on in his life, he found out that his mom found out that the reason why was because her husband was really her brother, and she didn't know herself. And the son was the son of incest. And this son found out also later in his life, after he already had kids, but his life has been one disaster after another. He only had one kid, and that kid only had one kid. He only had one son, and that son only had one son. One day, they all go on a trip, and they all die together. Accident, everybody dies. Little kid, maybe a year old. Father, in his 20s maybe. Like disaster. Just, the Gzerah is very much still alive. Hashem is very much running the world, with or without our permission. With or without our acknowledgement. And this is a story, it's not a fairy tale. I didn't hear it from somebody, I heard it from the actual person himself. First-hand story, as crazy as it sounds. First-hand story. So, Hashem doesn't want that seed to continue. Next question. Yeah, we get to hear a lot of interesting stories in the world. It's part of the fun. Only problem is that half the stories, by the time I get to you, we have to spend like 3 days crying. Such horrible things happen. But that's what happens, Rabbatai. Am Yisrael is lost. Instead of worrying about doing tshuva, we're worrying about Thanksgiving. Yeah.
We know that from the Mishnah we just did, it's for us to really get Torah, we have to do all these things. So some people, they might go ahead and, like you were saying before, they go overboard too soon before they can actually catch up and do what they're supposed to do. So how are they supposed to measure themselves to really do what they need to do at the pace that they don't fall
question is, how does a person measure themselves so they don't fall apart later on, meaning they don't take on too much Torah too soon, they don't donate too much too soon, they don't make foolish moves and break. How do they measure themselves? They don't. They have a rabbi, and the rabbi measures them. If a person really has a rabbi, that means that the rabbi knows everything, not just what the person wants him to know. The rabbi knows everything. He knows how much money they make. He knows if they're married and they're happy, married and they're cheating, married and they want to cheat. The rabbi is supposed to know everything. Why? Because it's the only way the rabbi can really give a person a real assessment. A lot of people lie to their rabbis thinking that they're fooling the rabbi. In reality, all they're doing is fooling themselves. The rabbi is pretty much useless if he doesn't know the truth. So people come and they pretend to be Yaakov, but in reality, they're Esav. Everyone comes all the time. Oh, I can't believe how I'm being mistreated. They're doing this to me. They're doing that to me. And I'm going to sue. And I'm going to this. And I'm going to that. Oh, wow, I can't believe it's happening to you. You cry with them. You feel bad. And you want to try to help them. So you try to find out what you can do. Little do you know, after you wasted 3, 4, 5 hours trying to help this person, only to find out they're the criminal. They're the criminal in reality. And you just wasted your time. So the way a person needs to know is that you must have a rabbi that you talk to them, you tell them what's going on. And again, some rabbis are experts in business. Some rabbis are experts in shlom bayit. Some rabbis are experts in halacha and so on and so forth. But overall guidance, your rabbi should be able to give you either overall guidance directly or indirectly. Meaning, if let's say, for example, you have business issues, your rabbi is not an expert in business, he should know somebody that could help you perhaps. If your rabbi doesn't, you have shlom bayit problems, it's not necessarily his expertise, so perhaps he doesn't have the time for it. He should be able to guide you in some way or another to somebody that can help you. It's not always necessarily that you have to, put everything on the rabbi. The rabbi doesn't have all the time in the world. You're not the only person in the world. He has other people, plus he has a family and so on. But the rabbi should be that guide. In general, when it comes to learning Torah, a person needs to know that first and foremost, they have to make time to learn Torah every morning, every night. The Rambam also says in reality that if, the only reason why we learn in the morning is because we're obligated to. But if it was simply for the sake of learning, the best time to learn is at night. Because that's when you inherit your chokhmah. But either way, we're still obligated to learn. So until a person has made time for themselves to wake up early and be able to give themselves some time to learn in the morning and, did whatever they need to do to learn at night, until they're at that point where they're learning morning and night, the thoughts of going to kollel or a full time and doing something like that are as far from them as an alien is from us. It's not realistic. A lot of people say, no, I want to go to a kollel. I want to be the next Rabbi Akiva. First, be a Jew that learns morning and night. Then we'll talk about Rabbi Akiva and Chaverav and everything. So first, a person needs to use their time effectively and know how to learn during the day and every opportunity they have. Now, even though we say morning and night, I don't literally mean only morning and night. Learn at every opportunity you have. If you have a half hour in the afternoon, do it in the afternoon also. Chase Torah whenever you can, like it's a treasure. So that's one thing. If he's doing it and then, on a regular basis and he still feels he wants more, he can do more, his rabbi tells to do more, then he increases the time. He goes from half hour in the morning and let's say a half hour at night to an hour morning, hour at night, or half hour in the morning, an hour and a half at night, whatever it is. After a little while, time to increase again, Same thing, just like exercise, just like anything else that you succeed in life, you continue to increase over and over again. Same thing with tzedakah. He's comfortable giving $100 a month now because that's what he's comfortable giving and this and that. Fine, he does this for a while. After a while, he changes. Okay, now it's time to pick up to 150, and then 200, and then 300, and then 500, and so on and so forth. His goal should be to get to a point where he's giving 20% of his income. Maaser minimum, but his goal should be to get to 20% of his income. That's his goal. Unless he makes a lot of money to the point where he doesn't need all of it and he can give everything. But that's really exceptional cases. Point being, Rabotai, is that our goal is to not just fulfill the Torah for the sake of ourselves. Our goal is to fulfill the Torah for the sake of the nation. And the nation is not all on the same level. You, Baruch Hashem, have all done tshuva, and you're all going strong, but not everybody's like you. Many people are like you used to be, like I used to be. Still, many people think that they're more than you, but they're actually worse than you. Or, so everybody has their own issues. Sometimes you see that there are certain problems that religious people have that you wouldn't think they have. Like, for example, there's one couple that is in need of marriage problems. Why? They're Haredi. Haredi, like we're talking about, like as religious as it gets. Lulav, Meudar, the Sukkah is a building pretty much. All the mitzvot, you're wasting your time telling them anything about it. They know better than you. But the husband's an alcoholic. And the wife feels that he's probably going to kill her soon. So, mitzvot, fantastic. Kol Kol Yaakov. Yadayim Esav. Hands of Esav. Why? With enough alak and some other stuff with it, you become Esav. So what do? You have to help. You have to do something. So everybody has their own thing. That's why you have a rabbi. Your rabbi is going to know your weaknesses, you know your strengths, and he's going to tell you the truth, hopefully, with no bias. But again, it's important to evaluate even what you're doing. Where you're spending your time, where you're spending your money, where you're spending your efforts, all the things that you're doing, you have to evaluate it. I know that people love to, do certain things because they're used to them and so on. But every so often, you have to evaluate all the things that you're doing, even though it seems right. You have to remove yourself from the picture and evaluate yourself. Is this? Do I see any benefit out of this? Donating for 6 months, a year to this organization. Did something come out of it, or it's the same email every week with a happy face on it? Tell me Shavua Tov. Like, are they doing something with the money? What's happening? This rabbi, every week he gives a shiur, but it's always the same shiur and everybody falls asleep. Like, do I want to continue going there? Do I want to continue investing in it? Like every so often a person needs to evaluate it. Also, a person needs to say, wait a minute, this organization, do they really need this money, or is there another organization with similar or better ambitions that's more in need? With all due respect to the bigger organizations, the reality is that if they missed the donations of another $1 million or $2 or $3 or $4 or $5 million, nothing will change for them. Nothing will change for them. Baruch Hashem, let them continue making millions and then building. Hopefully they start using the money for good. But an organization like Chabad, for example, their budget is over $1 billion a year. Budget. We're not talking about how much they have. The budget meaning there's $1 billion coming in a year, if not more. So, I don't know, you donate another $500, another $1,000, another $2,000, another $5,000 to the local Chabad, you want to do it, It's your money. I don't really care. It doesn't change my life in any way. It doesn't change anybody's life. Changes yours maybe. I don't know. But I'm just saying, if you look at the effect, the impact, everybody that donates money usually wants to make some type of an impact. What is your $10,000 going to do in comparison to $1 billion? Nothing. Zero. Oh yeah, but they're going to put another couple of pictures on the wall at the Beit Knesset, and they're going to get nice seats. Okay, so they're going to get nice seats, so every time somebody passes gas on the seat, you're going to get a mitzvah or something. I don't know, what are you going to get out of this money? That's what people need to start thinking. People like to build buildings. I got people telling me, yeah, I just made a huge donation to Chabad. How much? Oh, $20,000, $5,000. Why? What'd you do with the money? Did you build something? Oh no, we're gonna get a new chandelier and a couple of new seats. Chabad, mamash Chabad. People are just burning their money. Again, this is nothing against Chabad. It's the same thing with other big organizations. You have to evaluate, where's the money going? Where's the money going? What are you doing with it? And also, there are many small, I'm not even just talking about Be'ezrat Hashem. I'm talking about, there's many other small organizations that have just as much ambitions and impact, and maybe even more than some of these organizations. But they don't have even 5% of the funding. So, a person needs to always evaluate these things. Where am I going to be the most effective? You know, if a person, let's say, donates $10,000 to one of these big organizations versus $10,000 to an avrech, it's worlds apart. Worlds apart. I don't care who the organization is. You cannot compare it to an avrech. Cannot compare it to getting people to do tshuva. Cannot compare. It's worlds apart. It's like comparing the taste of the candy versus the wrapper. We all like to enjoy the wrapper for some reason. We love the wrapper. Like, oh, yeah, it's kind of plasticky. Yeah, it's plastic actually, in paper. It's not the candy. The candy's in the garbage. You threw the candy in the garbage. We're all fools. B'ezrat Hashem, next week we're going to be in Canada. B'ezrat Hashem in Montreal for the first time. Looking forward to meeting some faces, some voices that I've heard many times. Also some new faces, some new people. B'ezrat Hashem, looking forward to the trip. It's been a trip that's long time coming. So that's going to be on Sunday. So there's not going to be any shiurim in Florida next week, but there will be B'ezrat Hashem, whatever I can put online. We will put them online. I think that there's probably going to be at least one or two shiurim that we'll put on Facebook Live and YouTube and so on. But that's only 1 week. B'ezrat Hashem, there's a lot to do before that. Working on the next Alona Kodesh. Next one is going to be very soon. We have actually a couple of really big things coming up also with that Alona Kodesh. So B'ezrat Hashem, a lot of interesting projects. Also, the new CDs, bags, and Asher Yatzar cards, B'ezrat Hashem, should be available within the next couple of weeks. So for anyone that wants to bring them to their community, this is the time. I don't think these will. This first shipment is even going to last. We're already starting to work on the second shipment. And B'ezrat Hashem, so people just gotta listen to these shiurim. Try to take whatever you can out of every shiur and use it. If the part that I talked about in regards to the value of Torah affected you, use it. Tzedakah, use it. Doesn't not affect you, find something else. I'm sure I've talked for a while. I'm sure something here was good. Take it, use it. B'ezrat Hashem, get closer to Hashem with it. Baruch Adonai L'olam. Amen ve'amen.